Simultaneous Transmigration, unstoppable from the enemy multiverse. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author, we're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 176 Encountering Adachi and Kisame. At the main gate of Konoha village in the Land of Fire, after concluding post-war discussions, Seiya and Madarumi prepared to return to the Hidden Mist village. The Sunagakure village, however, still refused to sell the Calabash brothers to them, and despite both Konoha and Sunagakure's mutual fear of the Hidden Mist village, they made some concessions. Konoha's demand for compensation was significantly less than half, and Sunagakure agreed to pay it, albeit in installments over 5 years. Back in the Hidden Mist village, Konoha readily returned the 3 ninja swords and handed Madarumi the scroll containing the immortal reincarnation technique, instructing her not to forget the agreement she had made with the third Hokage. The forbidden technique of immortal reincarnation was supposed to be forbidden from outside the ninja village, but with Orochimaru now a traitor and the need to strengthen the friendship between Konoha and the Hidden Mist village, it became pointless to continue pursuing it. Konoha village, now without a Hokage and still recovering from the attack, was worried that Kumagakure and Iwagakure would exploit the situation. Therefore, Konoha proposed that the 3 villages sign a peace agreement, promising mutual support. Maki of Sunagakure hesitated for a moment before accepting the proposal. Just kidding. After Konoha's plan to collapse failed, Sunagakure had lost every last bit of its resources and was now firmly at the bottom of the 5 great ninja villages. Naturally, they wouldn't address Konoha's proposal. Both Konoha and Sunagakure agreed, and finally, Yuta Tenkaharu and Maki simultaneously looked at Madarumi. Both Konoha and Sunagakure were now without their Hokage and Kazekage, and their strength had been impacted by the previous battle, so they decided to band together for support. But Kirigakure's situation was different. It was said that after the Blood Mist village, Kirigakure's overall strength had declined significantly, even with the death of the 4th Mizukage. But now, Kaguya Seiya alone is enough to raise the Hidden Mist village's combat power to a considerable level. Konoha and Sunagakure couldn't guarantee whether the 5th Mizukage would agree to an alliance agreement with them. We in the Hidden Mist village have no objection to this. After all, during the Blood Mist village period, our village also lost a large number of ninjas, and we simply don't have the energy or manpower to fight a war right now. However, while you two represent your respective villages, you are not the Hokage and Kazekage. Regarding the signing of the alliance agreement, how about we wait until the next Hokage and Kazekage take over and formalize it? Hearing Madarumi's words, Yuta Tenkaharu and Maki also agreed. Since the 5th Mizukage had agreed, the matter was practically set in stone. After all, he was the 5th Mizukage, and he would probably disdain to go back on his word. On the way back to the Land of Water, Madarumi looked at the scrolls in her hands, her smile never faltering. These sealed scrolls, in addition to the blunt swords, Daoki, Bakutao, and Naga, sewing needles, returned by Konoha, also include the impure world reincarnation technique and the broken sword, decapitation sword, recovered from the Land of Waves. The twin swords, Au, are still in the Hidden Mist village. The remaining Thunder Blade, Kiba, and the Great Sword, Samehoda, are still lost. But Seiya knows the whereabouts of both ninja swords. This mission to Konoha was a bonanza for the Hidden Mist village, not only establishing good relations with Konoha and Sunagakure, but even returning 4 ninja swords. Who among the bloodline families of the Hidden Mist village would dare question Madarumi's eligibility to become the 5th Mizukage? The 4th Mizukage, Yagura, only managed to recover the Zabuza-style blade from Juzobiwa, and nearly lost his own life. Itachi and Juzobiwa went to capture the 3 tails, Juzo died, and Yagura was nearly burned to death by Amaterasu, and I, Madarumi, have recovered 4 ninja swords in one go. Those old hats who opposed me should probably shut up this time, right? At a stall within the Land of Fire, Seiya and the others, returning to the Hidden Mist village, were resting after a day's journey. Perhaps after being suppressed in the Hidden Mist village for too long, Madarumi finally managed to escape, and this time, things went quite smoothly. so she was unusually childlike in her elation. Don't get carried away. I told you before not to provoke Orochimaru. They're just 3 broken swords. If you can get them back, take them. If you don't, it's no big deal. As for the so-called 7 ninja swords, Seiya really didn't think that these things were so awesome. Except for the big sword Simultaneous, which was used to perfection by Kisame, the others seemed to be just that. What's a broken sword? These are the 7 ninja swords of the NERvGear, the village's symbolic force, understand? Ever since the first generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen, some dead and some injured, the 7 swords haven't been reunited in NERvGear. If we can recover all 7 and rebuild the 7 ninja swordsmen, NERvGear's strength will surely be significantly restored. Speaking of which, Seiya, didn't you say before that you knew the whereabouts of the Thunder Blade, Kiba, and the Great Blade, Simultaneous? Why don't we let Chidro and the others return to NERvGear first? We can then recover the remaining Thunder Blade, Kiba, and the Great Blade, Simultaneous, and return directly to the village with the remaining swords. Retrieving the remaining 2 swords would undoubtedly require high-level combat power, and NERvGear currently has only a few of them. In the end, it was either Seiya or Madarumi who acted. Rather than returning to the village and then venturing out, it would be better to settle everything all at once. After all, neither she nor Seiya, as the Mizukage and the Anbu captain, could easily leave the village. If it weren't for the unique circumstances of this situation, and the fact that NERvGear lacked any other capable figures, the 2 of them wouldn't have needed to go out and work themselves. As for whether they could successfully recover the 2 remaining ninja swords, that wasn't even a consideration for Madarumi. Just kidding. They'd already defeated Konoha's first and second Hokage, so how could they possibly fail against a mere NERvGear renegade ninja? You really want to recover the 2 remaining ninja swords? Upon hearing Seiya's words, Madarumi rolled her eyes and said, isn't that nonsense? As the 5th Mizukage of NERvGear, if I had the chance, I would naturally recover what belongs to the village. Seiya, well, then, 5th Mizukage, your chance has come. Do you see those 2 men approaching over there? Yes. Those 2 wearing conical hats and black robes embroidered with the red auspicious clouds. They were both ninjas, and when Seiya and Madarumi saw Uchiha and Hoshigaki Kisame, they naturally saw Seiya and the others as well. It's okay for Uchiha and the others, because Akatsuki hasn't made a big splash in the ninja world yet, so they're not particularly conspicuous. But Seiya and Terumi are different. The Ford protectors of the Hidden Mist village, especially the Mizukage's conical hat that Terumi placed on the table, are simply too conspicuous. Chapter 177 Seiya, Simultaneous is for scraping me. Itachi Uchiha returned to the Land of Fire primarily because he heard the 3rd Hokage had died. To protect his adorable daughter, Adao, from persecution, Itachi made a special trip to Konoha to show his face and warn certain Konoha leaders that he, Uchiha, was still alive. Of course, Itachi Uchiha hadn't anticipated that, shortly after entering the Land of Fire, he would encounter the 5th Mizukage and Seiya, who were returning to the Hidden Mist village. Believing it was better to avoid further entanglement, Itachi Uchiha initially avoided contact with them. After all, there was no grudge or conflict of interest between the 2, and a fight would be of no benefit to either side. However, the fact that Itachi Uchiha had no grudge against the Hidden Mist village didn't mean that his close friend, Hoshigaki Kisame, felt the same way. The 5th Mizukage, Madarumi, knew both Seiya and Kisame. After all, as fellow Hidden Mist village ninjas, and both Seiya and Madarumi were jonin from the village, it was impossible for Kisame to be unaware of them. However, Kisame hadn't anticipated that Madarumi would become the 5th Mizukage of the Hidden Mist village. And judging by their recent conversation, it seemed the 2 had their sights set on his great sword, Simultaneous. Sorry, Itachi, you'll have to go ahead and gather intelligence in Konoha. I might need to attend to some personal matters first. Uchiha Itachi didn't want to cause any further complications, but he could see that the Mizukage, as the Hidden Mist village's Mizukage, wasn't about to let Kisame, the traitor, off. Be careful. The 5th Mizukage and that Hidden Mist village jounin are no simple matter. According to the intelligence we've gathered, Orochimaru's attack on Konoha failed largely due to interference from the Hidden Mist village. Itachi and his companions didn't know the specific details of Orochimaru's attack on Konoha, but they had heard rumors. Is that so? Then I'd like to see just how capable the new Mizukage is. Hearing Uchiha Itachi's words, a sinister grin crossed Kisame's shark-like face, and he reached out to grasp Simultaneous' bandaged back. You guys go back to NERvGear by your original route. We'll catch up with you as soon as possible, even though there are only 2 of us, staying here won't help at all, and it could even be dangerous. Seeing the unwilling looks in the eyes of Chidro and the other Jinan, Seiya rebuked them, shutting down their plans to stay and help. On the other side, Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame clearly had no regard for these small-time thugs like Chidoro. They watched them leave, but showed no intention of engaging them. Let's choose a more open area. After all, this is a good place to fight. Looking at the customers fleeing in all directions and the panicked stall owner, Seiya sighed. You have the final say. Do you think you? Before Kisame could finish his words, he felt a shadow sprint towards him. Driven by his excellent fighting instincts, Kisame instantly blocked Kisame, his hands wrapped in bandages, in front of him. Dang, and just at the moment when Kisame blocks Samedhoda in front of him, a size 42 foot directly printed on the blade of Samedhoda, and a crisp sonic boom sound was emitted. The terrifying force passed through the blade of Samedhoda and directly acted on Kisame's arm holding the sword, making his originally blue face even more cyan at this moment. The big sword Samedhoda is the largest of the 7 ninja swords, and Kisame can wield it with one hand, so you can imagine how strong he is. But just when he was blocking Seiya's kick, the huge force made the Samedhoda in his hand almost fly out of his hand. Even now, when he was holding the ninja sword that almost flew out of his hand, the impact force of Seiya on the sword made Kisame, who was holding Samedhoda, fly back 100 meters. Don't you want to ask who I am? Then let me tell you, I am Kaguya Seiya, and I don't like fighting here now, so you can only follow me to other places. Kisame, who had finally slowed down, had an ugly look on his face when he heard what Seiya said at this moment. However, when he saw that Seiya's foot was still on his Samedhoda, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth again. Sizzle. Along with the sound of tearing cloth, the bandage that was originally wrapped around Samedhoda was torn apart in an instant, and the Samedhoda in Kisame's hand had grown into dark blue spikes. The attack method of the big sword Samedhoda was originally used to cut people, and these spikes on the blade can directly devour the opponent's chakra to strengthen itself as long as they hit the enemy. To put it simply, a ninja who fights in close combat with a big sword Samedhoda user is almost courting self-destruction, because with just 1 or 2 cuts, the chakra of an ordinary Jonin ninja will be drained out. However, just when Kisame activated the ability of Samedhoda and was about to devour Seiya's chakra, his expression changed again, because he found that his Samedhoda could not absorb any chakra from the opponent. As a ninja from the Hidden Mist village, do you think I don't know the ability of the big sword Samedhoda? Open your eyes wide and take a good look at what is under my feet. After hearing what Seiya said, Kisame took a closer look and was shocked to find that tiny bone spurs had grown out from the bottom of Seiya's feet. These bone spurs grew out from the bottom of Seiya's feet like spikes, which means that Seiya did not touch Samedhoda directly with his feet. The corpse bone vein of the Hyuga clan as a rebel ninja from the Hidden Mist, Kisame was also familiar with the corpse bone vein. You got it right, here's an additional reward for you. Seeing the astonishment on Kisame's face, Seiya did not choose to stop there, but used the foot that kicked Samedhoda as a fulcrum, and directly kicked Kisame's shark face again with a 2-stage kick. And because Samedhoda was not used as a defense again, Kisame flew farther this time. What an amazing speed and physical skills! Kisame was suppressed from the beginning, since everything happened in a flash from the moment Seiya launched the attack to the moment Kisame was kicked away. Uchiha Itachi and Maid Arumi were still standing there. Glancing at Uchiha Itachi's already open Sharingan, Maid Arumi finally realized that the opponent was Itachi of the Sharingan, the Konoha rebel ninja who, together with Biwa Julzao, had caused the death of the 4th Mizukage. The NERvGear rebel ninja Hoshigaki Kisame, and Uchiha Itachi who once attacked the 4th Mizukage. I really didn't expect to meet both of you at the same time this time. Maid Arumi formed a seal and drew out a water whip, and swung it directly towards Uchiha Itachi. Unfortunately, the water whip, as flexible as a swimming snake, was so slow in Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan that it was like a stuck animation, so Itachi easily avoided it. 5th Mizukage, how about we fight somewhere else? Glancing at the ordinary people around him, Itachi jumped to avoid the water whip and ran towards the direction of Seiya and the others without waiting for Maid Arumi's consent. Chapter 178, Follow the Mizukage to play high-end games. Looking at the panicked crowd of ordinary people around her, Maid Arumi clearly hadn't expected the supposedly renegade ninja to be so principled. She didn't continue attacking Uchiha Itachi, instead chasing him in the direction he'd left. When Madarumi and Uchiha Itachi reached a deserted area, Seiya and Kisame, who had arrived next, were already engaged in a fierce battle. Water style, exploding water wave. It's well known that even within the same ninjutsu level, the power of their jutsu can vary greatly depending on the ninja's chakra level. A ninjutsu skilled in water-style jutsu will greatly increase its power if used in an environment with abundant water. However, by the same token, if a ninjutsu is used in an environment without water, its power will be greatly reduced and the chakra consumption will be increased. The area they were currently in was a barren mountainous area, but with Kisame's hand seals, the previously moisture-free environment suddenly erupted into a tsunami-like wave. Water style, Great Falls technique. Seeing the massive wave rolling in, Seiya, undeterred, formed his own hand seals and unleashed a water-style jutsu. The ground shook violently, and a massive ball of water erupted from behind Seiya, colliding with Kisame's water-style wave. The collision of the water wave and the giant ball of water instantly filled the surrounding area with a torrent of vapor, instantly moistening the dry earth and transforming the mountainous landscape into a vast lake. Seeing his own water-style wave blocked by the opponent's water-style jutsu, Kisame's shark-like face showed a hint of surprise. Based on Seiya's previous skills and strength, he had always assumed Seiya was a physical ninja, but he hadn't expected him to be skilled in ninjutsu as well. And judging by the power of this water-style jutsu, Seiya's chakra capacity should be comparable to his own. Kaguya Seiya, I seem to have heard of you before in the Hidden Mist village, but I never imagined you were so powerful. Hashigaki Kisame, like Terumi Mei, had heard of Seiya before, due to his low profile, but had never seen him in action. He had initially assumed he was merely a Kekkei ninja, but now it seemed that was clearly not the case. Water style, Great Samiden Jutsu. Standing above the lake that had just been formed by his water style, Kisame concentrated his chakra and formed shark-shaped water bullets that ripped towards Seiya. Seeing Kisame's signature jutsu, Seiya chose not to engage him again. Instead, he clenched his fist and concentrated all his strength in a single blow. Yukijin, with a clear sonic boom, Seiya's punch, delivered with overwhelming force, instantly shattered the incoming Great Samiden. Corpse vein, 10 fingers piercing bullets. Like bullets, finger bones shot out from Seiya's fingertips. Kisame flailed his Samehoda to block them. The ricocheting finger bones collided with Samehoda, sending sparks flying like steel. As Kisame blocked the 10 fingers piercing bullets, Seiya's figure darted across the water at breakneck speed. In a matter of breaths, he was in front of Kisame again, unleashing a flurry of high-speed attacks. Seiya was well aware of Kisame's fighting style. Known as the tailless tailed beast, he possessed a prodigious chakra reserve. His usual fighting style was to use Samehoda to weaken his enemy's chakra and then overpower them with his momentum. The great sword Samehoda was powerful, but also quite cumbersome. Unless he engaged Samehoda fusion and combined it with a great explosion water wave to move quickly underwater, Kisame's movements were not considered agile. Watching Seiya, wielding a bone blade, relentlessly attacking him, Kisame struggled to fend off the blows with Samehoda, his body retreating steadily. As the fight dragged on, Kisame's wounds multiplied, for he discovered that Seiya was not only a formidable taijutsu and ninjutsu master, but also a master of swordsmanship. During their battle, Kisame considered using ninjutsu, but unfortunately, the opponent gave him no time to form hand seals. Even in close combat, Kisame was a formidable opponent. As one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, he was naturally adept at hand-to-hand combat. Furthermore, Samehoda could constantly connect with the opponent, absorbing their chakra and feeding it back to him. However, the problem now was that the opponent was a wielder of the Shikatsu Kata bloodline, his body as prickly as a sea urchin. Samehoda was unable to absorb any chakra from him, and his swordsmanship was far superior to his own. Simply put, after just a few dozen rounds of fighting, Kisame clearly felt that he was no match for the Kirito ninja before him. No, it should be said that his opponent was almost a natural nemesis. Unless he used the Samehoda fusion, he had no chance of victory against him. Fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. Just as Kisame was being continuously suppressed by Seiya, and Seiya was about to cut off Kisame's arm holding Samehoda, a sudden burst of scorching heat swept through the air, and a massive fireball suddenly erupted towards Seiya. Corpse vein, Bone Fang Shield Jutsu. A bone shield resembling neatly arranged teeth appeared before Seiya, directly blocking the blazing fireball. The Great Fireball was merely a C-rank ninjutsu, But in Uchiha Itachi's hands, it unleashed the power of a high-level ninjutsu, burning the bone shield that blocked Seiya's path red hot, and a small portion of the water on the lake evaporated, forming a thick white mist. Just as Itachi Uchiha used his fire style to free Kisame, a water whip lashed out from afar, slicing him in two. Despite being cut in two, Itachi's body didn't bleed, instead transforming into crows and soaring into the air. Terumi Mei, realizing the situation was dire, turned around and saw a pair of crimson Sharingans. Terumi Mei tried to resist, but soon found herself unable to move. Itachi, standing before her, slowly drew a kunai from his sleeve and prepared to stab her heart. As the kunai drew closer, piercing her chest and causing blood to flow profusely, the surrounding scenery quickly faded like a shadow. When Terumi Mei regained consciousness and looked around, she saw Seiya standing behind her, a hand on her shoulder. As for his chest, which had just been pierced by a kunai, blood still flowed from it. The headlights were still as majestic as ever, but Uchiha Itachi was already standing next to her Shigeki Kisame. I was caught in his illusion without even realizing it. Is this the power of the Sharingan? Chapter 179 White Bone Shura vs Susanoo. Madarumi had witnessed the power of the Sharingan before during the Ninja Wars, but this was the first time she had been caught unawares by a Jinjutsu. To be frank, if Seiya hadn't injected his chakra into her, disrupting her chakra, she might not have been able to break free from Uchiha Itachi's Jinjutsu so quickly on her own. You two, we have no intention of becoming your enemies this time. How about we call it a day? After all, continuing the fight would be detrimental to both of us. The fourth Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village just died not long ago. If the fifth Mizukage dies here too, the Hidden Mist Village will surely be plunged into chaos again, right? Hearing Uchiha Itachi's words, Madarumi's face darkened. His words were undoubtedly a naked threat. Hand over Samehoda. It belongs to our village. We'll settle the rest later. Although his impure world reincarnation state made him immune to Jinjutsu, Itachi still had the Kido Matsukami in Amaterasu and Shisu's other eye. The power of Uchiha Itachi's Kido Matsukami and Danzo's Kido Matsukami were two completely different beasts. While Seiya doubted Itachi would use Kido Matsukami, with its long cooldown, on him, he couldn't tell if the opponent would resort to desperate measures. Even though it was a 2-2 situation, Madarumi was already affected by the Sharingan. If she were hit by a Tsukuyomi attack, she would likely be as defeated as Kakashi. Seiya, while confident, wasn't entirely confident facing both Uchiha Itachi and Kisame simultaneously. You want my Samehoda? Then come and get it. I won't be as careless as I was just now. Even if you're a tough nut to crack, I will tear you apart. Shigeki Kisame was instantly enraged when Seiya demanded Samehoda be handed over. If it weren't for Itachi's respect, he wouldn't have given up. If that's the case, then there's nothing more to say. Ming, I'll take care of Uchiha Itachi. Hoshigeki Kisame is yours. Watch out for him using Samehoda to absorb your chakra. Use Dissolve and Boil Release to block his movements. Corpse Vein, Skeleton Hell. Seiya crouched down and reached for the water beneath his feet. Immediately, accompanied by a violent tremor, hideous, sharp bone spurs burst forth from the ground like mushrooms after a rain, rapidly extending until they reached the surface. The bone spurs rising from the ground didn't directly pierce Uchiha Itachi and Kisame. Instead, they expanded like the petals of a blooming lotus, trapping everyone present. The protruding bone spurs lifted the ground, surrounding the surrounding area like a wall, forming a massive bone cage. The bone spurs towered tens of meters high. Though without a roof, they were impossible for ordinary ninjas, unless they could fly, to traverse this barrier. While ninjas could climb walls and easily cross this one by following the bone spurs surrounding it, Seiya wasn't dead. He couldn't predict what would happen if he stepped on the bone spurs created by his corpse veins. Looking at his surroundings blocked by bone spurs, Itachi Uchiha frowned slightly. Honestly, if he could help it, he really didn't want to fight Seiya and the others here. His physical condition had deteriorated over the past few years, and every high-intensity battle was a huge burden. Seiya was clearly no weakling, and defeating him might require even the most powerful of his main Gekyo Sharingan techniques. To pave the way for his fish-lip Odo, Itachi Uchiha had to ensure his body could hold up until Sasuke matured. Furthermore, he had come to Konoha to demonstrate his abilities. If he fought Seiya and the others here, would he really have the energy to go back to Konoha to support Odo? You don't plan to let us leave until the winner is decided? That's exactly what I want, Itachi. You just need to watch the fight from the sidelines. Leave both of them to me. If you treat it as a job, it should be over soon. As Itachi's teammate, Hashigaki Kisame naturally understood Itachi's physical condition, and it must be said that although Kisame was cold-blooded and ruthless, he did respect Uchiha Itachi. Originally, this unexpected disaster seemed to be caused by the Samehoda in his hand, so Kisame was prepared to fight two at a time this time. Because Samehoda had not absorbed enough chakra from Seiya before, the chakra for Samehoda to enter its second form could only be provided by himself. Samehoda, which was originally cylindrical, began to change its shape after Kisame injected a large amount of chakra into it. The original cylindrical blade now began to become wider in front and thinner in the back. It was not called a broadsword, but it looked more like a sledgehammer, and a big mouthful of sharp teeth had grown at the head of the blade. And this pufferfish-like shape is actually the true posture of Samehoda. Seeing Kisame about to enter Samehoda fusion with the hilt of his sword biting into his arm, Seiya didn't hesitate and launched his ultimate move. Kisame's Samehoda fusion state required the use of the Great Explosion Water Rush that moved like a giant water prison to complete his underwater hunting ground. However, just as Kisame spit out the giant water prison, Seiya also attacked at the same time. Corpse Vein, White Bone Shuro, the giant white bone shuro rose from the ground. Even the dozens of meters high bone wall instantly became an ordinary fence in the courtyard in Seiya's eyes. As for Kisame's Great Explosion Water Rush, the giant ellipsoidal water prison with a diameter of hundreds of meters was indeed huge for ordinary people, but for a ninja who could drive a Gundam, it was at best a slightly larger bathtub. One sword Shura. Looking at the oval water prison in front of him, Seiya raised the huge bone knife in his hand, and with the force of splitting Mount Huishin, he directly cut off the huge water prison in front of him. Kisame, who had completed the Samehoda fusion and was in the water, originally wanted to pull Seiya and Madarumi into the water prison, but now looking at the huge bone knife that suddenly fell from the sky, he was stunned on the spot. This opponent doesn't play by the rules. You should have said earlier that you can drive a Gundam, making Kisame perform for a long time and look like a clown. Susanoo, at the same time that Seiya's white bone Shura chopped down, a burst of orange-red chakra suddenly burst out from Uchiha Itachi's body. A huge skeleton emerged from nothing, and finally became a man wearing armor and holding a flaming sword. Boom! The bone sword that Seiya swung down was blocked by the 10-fist sword in the hand of Uchiha Itachi Susanoo, and the shock wave generated by the collision between the two instantly swept around, so that the two of them retreated a lot. Chapter 180 The Akatsuki duo chooses to escape. As the bone blade collided with the Tenkan sword, the surrounding ground instantly shattered, rock fragments blasting out like bullets, and a cloud of dust billowed into the air. Terumi Mei, imprisoned in a dark cell while Seiya and Hashirama Senju engaged in a Gundam duel, hadn't witnessed Seiya's white bone Shura technique, and so was astonished by it. She was also surprised to discover that even Seiya could perform a technique of this magnitude, yet it was still blocked by Uchiha Itachi. Was that massive, orange-red figure also a power of the Sharingan? With the Uchiha clan's bloodline so powerful, how did they manage to be exterminated? As Seiya swung the bone blade again, a powerful gust of wind swept through the area, blowing away the dust. However, when the dust cleared, Seiya and Terumi Mei were both stunned to see the empty spot, only a few traces of blood remaining. A large hole had appeared in the surrounding thornbone forest, and black flames blazed around it. Terumi Mei gazed at the flames and was about to reach out to investigate, but Seiya stopped her, saying, "Don't touch them. This is Amaterasu, one of the main Gekyo Sharingan's eye techniques. It incinerates everything, and once caught in this flame, it's extremely difficult to extinguish. Remember those severe burns on the fourth Mizukage? They were caused by Amaterasu. Even with a Jinchuriki's healing abilities, he suffered the same fate. Imagine what would happen to an ordinary ninja if struck by such a blast." Hearing Seiya's words, Terumi Mei quickly withdrew her hand, then gazed at the now vanished Uchiha Itachi duo and asked, "What should we do? Should we chase them?" To be honest, Terumi Mei had initially believed that she and Seiya could easily defeat these two renegade ninjas together. But she hadn't expected Uchiha Itachi's strength to be so far beyond her expectations. Even if Kisame, fused with Samehoda, faced Madarumi in a one-on-one fight, she wouldn't be sure of victory. Forget it this time. While Amaterasu may not be able to incinerate humans, it's still quite effective against the impure world reincarnation technique. And as Itachi Uchiha said, we don't have a major conflict with them. They're here to cause trouble for Konoha, so there's no need for us to be their thugs for free. Just as Seiya and Madarumi gave up and turned back to the hidden mist village, Itachi, Uchiha and Kisame had already escaped 1,000 meters away. It seems they don't intend to fight us to the death, otherwise we wouldn't have escaped so easily. We thought it was just a simple intelligence gathering, but not only did they use Amaterasu, they even used Susanoo. Hearing Itachi's words, Hoshigaki Kisame remained somewhat non-committal. After the brief battle, he acknowledged Kaguya Seiya's strength, but Itachi Uchiha was equally formidable. Kaguya Seiya possesses the so-called white bone shiro, while Uchiha Itachi possesses Susanoo. Furthermore, Itachi possesses the Amaterasu jutsu. If a desperate fight truly erupted, Uchiha Itachi wouldn't necessarily lose to Kaguya Seiya. As for the fifth Mizukage, Madarumi, to be frank, while Hoshigaki Kisame's odds against Seiya aren't high, he still has a good chance of defeating a mere fifth Mizukage. Don't underestimate him, Kisame. Both Susanoo and Amaterasu will be a significant burden to me. I sensed that Kaguya Seiya was still holding back, so if the fight continues, we'll most likely be defeated. Kaguya Seiya is truly a ninja to be reckoned with, but with such prowess, why have I never heard of him before? Kisame, a former Kirito ninja, was more knowledgeable on this point. While he didn't know much about Seiya, as a former ninja from the same village, he knew much more than Itachi. He used to be a very low-key guy. The style of the Kirito ninja is the survival of the fittest. Every Kirito ninja rises to prominence by stepping on the corpses of countless others, but that guy was different. Even though I remember him as different from the average Kirito ninja, I don't remember him being this strong, so, he was just pretending all along, Itachi Uchiha asked doubtfully. Perhaps. That guy's mindset was different from the other Kirito ninjas who only cared about killing. If he hadn't died so early, perhaps the fourth Mizukage's bloody policies wouldn't have happened. Recalling certain past events, Kisame showed a rare sense of melancholy. He was undoubtedly a highly qualified ninja, always focusing on the mission and never letting personal feelings get in the way. Sorry, did I bring up some unpleasant memories for you? Itachi Uchiha apologized, seemingly noticing Kisame's distress. It doesn't matter. I'm no longer a Kirito ninja. But now that this has happened, are we still going to Konoha? Kisame was a smart man. He knew Itachi's reason for going to Konoha wasn't simply to gather intelligence. But then again, he admired Uchiha Itachi, so as long as it didn't violate his principles, he was quite willing to help Itachi in even the smallest matters. Let's go. After all, we're already here, and I'm a little concerned about that Kaguya Seiya. Going to Konoha should give us more information on his battles. Thinking of his foolish Shadao, Uchiha Itachi wiped the blood from his eyes from using Amaterasu and decided to go to Konoha to show off. I hope there are some capable fighters in Konoha. I've just been so angry. If a few reckless guys show up and I can vent my anger once we get there, that would be great. Itachi and Kisame didn't consider whether Seiya and the others would share their news with Konoha. But even if they were told, the two probably wouldn't care too much. In order to support Hoshigaki, Uchiha Itachi had to go with a Konoha group. As for Kisame, he believed that with the three ninjas of Konoha leaving the village, White Fang dead, and now even the third generation gone, the powerful Konoha village had already declined. Now, let alone keeping him and Uchiha Itachi in Konoha village, I'm afraid there wouldn't be anyone in the entire Konoha who could beat them. As for the other side, Madarumi did inform the Konoha village that Uchiha Itachi and his group were going to Konoha. It wasn't for anything else. On the one hand, such information could just buy Konoha a small favor, and on the other hand, it was also to cause some trouble for Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. After all, women are very vindictive. Chapter 181 Madarumi, where did you get so many Sharingans? Are the Uchiha clan's Sharingan illusions really that powerful? Madarumi bit her nails as she hurried back to the hidden mist village, brooding over the fact that she had been affected by Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan illusion. It wasn't her fault, though. After all, as the fifth Mizukage, she was practically the face of the hidden mist village. Add to that the fact that she had single-handedly defeated the second Hokage, who had been defeated by the impure world tactics, and Madarumi had grown a little inflated. And yet, not long after, a random Konoha renegade ninja she encountered on the road had taught her a lesson. It was only fitting that Chijiro and his men had already returned to the village when she was caught in the Jinjutsu. Otherwise, her image as the fifth Mizukage, a towering figure, would have been shattered in the eyes of these younger generations. After all, Maid-Arumi had been bragging about her achievements when she was caught in a renegade genjutsu. Even the thickest-skinned Mizukage couldn't hold back. The three great eye techniques of the ninja world all share a deep connection with the legendary Sixth Path Sage. How could such a powerful bloodline not be powerful? Furthermore, Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan is no ordinary Sharingan. Being affected by his genjutsu is nothing to be ashamed of. You really don't need to dwell on it. Looking at the somewhat intoxicated Terumi Mei before him, Seiya reluctantly offered his advice. However, Seiya's words of comfort were of no use to Terumi Mei now. As the fifth Mizukage, appointed in a time of crisis, Terumi carried a heavy burden. The legacy of the fourth Mizukage's brutal policies, the doubts within the village, and the pressure and threats from outside. Terumi Mei always sought to improve the village, and so she held herself to a very high standard. The fourth Mizukage's genjutsu had led to the current state of the Hidden Mist village. If it were just Maid-Arumi who was defeated, she wouldn't be so upset. But now, Maid-Arumi worried. What if someone were to control her through genjutsu and repeat the same mistake as the fourth Mizukage? What would she do then? Even the fourth Mizukage, a perfect Jinchuriki, could be controlled by genjutsu. Could Maid-Arumi do any better? If she were to be controlled by a genjutsu and do something to harm the village again, Maid-Arumi couldn't even imagine the prospect. The Hidden Mist village was in tatters, and she had worked so hard to earn the trust of the current villagers. Was she going to trample on that trust again? Seeing Maid-Arumi drunkenly embrace him, spouting her heartfelt words, Seiya finally understood the problem. Simply put, while Maid-Arumi appeared capable and resilient on the surface, she was actually incredibly fragile under the immense pressure she endured. The unwitting genjutsu cast by Uchiha Itachi today had a far greater impact on Maid-Arumi than she had imagined. Deeply devoted to the village, she feared a repeat of the fourth Mizukage's fate. After helping the intoxicated Maid-Arumi back to her in-room from the tavern, Seiya carefully wiped her face with a wet towel. However, due to her excessive drinking, Seiya's task wasn't going smoothly. Alright, if you keep messing around like this, I'll get mad too. I'm the captain of the Anbu, not a babysitter. You're the fifth Mizukage, Maid-Arumi, more than the first woman to hold the title. Get your act together. It's just a mere Sharingan, we have it, too. There's nothing to be afraid of or worried about, Seiya said, and while Maid-Arumi looked bewildered, he pulled out a scroll and retrieved a severed arm. Witnessing such a scene at night was so terrifying that even the drunkenness on Terumi Mei's face faded slightly. However, as a ninja who had fought in battle, she was accustomed to life and death. Even as a woman, she was accustomed to the sight of broken limbs, so she quickly calmed down. And when she took a closer look at the severed arm, Terumi Mei was shocked to discover that the disgusting eyes on the arm were actually three Magatama Sharingan. The Sharingan, like the Byakugan, is one of the three great jutsu in the ninja world, and both are extremely powerful bloodlines. Even after the annihilation of the Uchiha clan, the Sharingan's rarity has far surpassed that of the Byakugan. Ao of Kirigakure was blacklisted by Konoha for simply stealing a Byakugan, and the entire Kirigakure cherished that Byakugan as a treasure. And the arm Seiya held out now contained 10 Sharingan, all of the highest level, 3 Magatama. That's not even a disgusting severed hand. If this arm were dropped into the ninja world right now, it would definitely send the entire ninja world scrambling for it. Where did all these Sharingans come from? Maid-Arumi, looking stunned at Seiya, her drunkenness completely gone, asked the biggest question on her mind. Logically, the Uchiha clan should have been exterminated over a decade ago. Even if there were still some survivors in Konoha, Seiya couldn't possibly have acquired so many Sharingans. Some old man dedicated them to me. Remember when I was away before the Konoha collapse plan began? Yes, I was out hunting. That's probably as much as what you got from the third Hokage, right? While 3 ninja swords and the impure world reincarnation technique were valuable, they couldn't possibly compare to 10 3 Magatama Sharingans. After all, not everyone can wield a ninja sword, but a 3 Magatama Sharingan is already the highest level of ordinary Sharingan. If she goes back to the ninja village and finds 10 Jonin to transplant it, even if she can't create 10 Kakashis, she can at least create 10 Ao. With so many Sharingans, even if she, Maid-Arumi, were to fall victim to genjutsu, she would surely be discovered immediately. And just when Maid-Arumi thought that Seiya had given her the last of his surprises, she was surprised when Seiya pulled out 2 containers filled with liquid. One of these containers contained a piece of white skin tissue, and the other contained an eyeball. Before Madarumi could even ask, Seiya spoke up. This patch of white skin tissue is made from the cells of the first Hokage, Hoshirama Senju. Transplanting it into the body grants the power of wood release and a powerful vitality. As for this eye, you've probably noticed it's also a Sharingan, but it's not just any Sharingan. It's the same Mangekyo Sharingan as Uchiha Itachi's. If anyone in the Uchiha clan possesses the most powerful Sharingan illusion, it's undoubtedly Uchiha Shisu. And within this Mangekyo Sharingan resides the most powerful complete control illusion, Kodomatsu Kami. Chapter 182 Sigma Ninja Kagu Seiya. Kodomatsu Kami. Although she had never heard of this Jinjutsu, Madarumi felt that since Seiya called it the strongest Jinjutsu, it couldn't be that weak. Kodomatsu Kami is a Jinjutsu that can alter your subconscious, even your thoughts, without warning. It's the strongest Jinjutsu of Uchiha Shisu's Mangekyo Sharingan. If you're truly worried about being controlled by others through Jinjutsu like the fourth Mizukage, perhaps you might consider transplanting Shisu's Sharingan. After all, it's the strongest Jinjutsu eye. As long as Shisu's eye power remains, he shouldn't be susceptible to Jinjutsu. After hearing Seiya's explanation, Madarumi looked at the eyeball in the container and realized the sheer power of this Sharingan. There was actually a Jinjutsu in the world that could subtly alter someone's thoughts, and the effects were permanent. It's fair to say that the value of this single Mangekyo Sharingan far surpassed the 10-3 Magatama Sharingans he had previously possessed. However, Madarumi glanced at the Sharingan in the container, then reflected on her own eye being replaced with a Sharingan and, like Ao, usually wearing a monocular eye patch. She ultimately declined Seiya's suggestion without hesitation. The Sharingan possesses immense power, and eye-related bloodlines are readily available in this world. If this Sharingan were transplanted, along with a melting release and boiling release, Madarumi would possess 3 bloodlines in total, arguably the most among ninjas. According to Seiya, this Sharingan was no ordinary Sharingan. Once transplanted, her power would undoubtedly increase. However, as an unmarried woman, she was also concerned about her appearance. The Uchiha clan had been exterminated, and compared to the Hyuga clan, still a powerful clan in Konoha, the Sharingan possessed by ninjas from other villages might not be as severe as the Byakugan, but it was something that could not be seen in public. Madarumi, the 5th Mizukage, would definitely not accept the idea of becoming a one-eyed man. Furthermore, her chakra capacity wasn't particularly high, and a Sharingan transplanted from a foreign race would always be active. If such a high-level Sharingan were actually transplanted into her eyes, it would, if not completely drain her, at least affect her combat abilities. You're not interested in a Sharingan transplant? That's fine. I'm just saying it, after all. It's really not suitable for you, so I'm here to discuss it. Again, Madarumi looked puzzled. Yes, it's what they call a backup plan. In fact, even before this incident, I had this idea. Did you obtain the impure world reincarnation jutsu from Konoha during this trip? My idea is for you to use it to summon the deceased 4th Mizukage, Yagura. The 4th Mizukage died shortly after being attacked by Biwa Juzo and Uchiha Itachi. Although he didn't die immediately after being burned by Amaterasu, his body was left with indelible scars. In order to prevent the 3 tails in his body from coming out to destroy the already declining Kirito after his death, Yagura chose to die in an uninhabited area outside the village. Kirito must know where the body of the 4th Mizukage is buried, and they should also know where the released 3 tails is. But for Kirito, the uncontrolled 3 tails Isabu is more of a disaster than an important combat force, so they have left it alone. In short, Kirito doesn't know the whereabouts of the 3 tails, and Seiya certainly doesn't believe it. After a period of investigation, Konoha and Akatsuki were able to find the location of the 3 tails. As the tailed beast in the 4th Mizukage's body, how could Kirito, as the host, not know? Use the impure world reincarnation to resurrect the 4th Mizukage, then we'll find the 3 tails Jinchuriki, Isabu, and make you the 3 tails Jinchuriki. With the 4th Mizukage, Yagura, helping us communicate, and having him teach you the techniques of tailed beast transformation, you, Madarumi, will be the perfect 3 tails Jinchuriki. Compared to ordinary ninjas, Jinchuriki possess the chakra of the tailed beasts, making them less susceptible to Jinjutsu, at least not to ordinary Jinjutsu. What do you think of this idea? Upon hearing Seiya's words, Madarumi fell silent. It had to be said that Seiya's proposal was highly feasible, and if she could become the 3 tails Jinchuriki, both her own strength and the village's overall strength would be significantly enhanced. However, Madarumi was internally resentful. Seiya's suggestions either made her look like a one-eyed dragon or a monster. Generally speaking, when a woman needs comfort, should a man step up to the plate? And what was Seiya saying? Are you not satisfied with this plan? Or are you worried that becoming a Jinchuriki will make you a target? I've actually thought about that. We could split the three tails in two, and you could just seal half of it. After all, the tailed beasts are simply a collection of chakra, so cutting them into a few pieces is perfectly fine. Seiya hadn't finished his words when Madarumi kicked him out of the room, convinced that Seiya was being unromantic. According to a typical scenario, the heroine, devastated by something, resorts to drinking to drown her sorrows. As the reliable hero, wouldn't Seiya be patiently comforting her, perhaps offering a chance to exploit her vulnerability later? But instead, Madarumi gave that idiot so many chances, and yet this idiot showed up in the middle of the night with a severed hand, a bunch of eyeballs, and a piece of skin, ruining the fun. Ion cell transplants, becoming a Jinchuriki, and even playing with human body modification. As for Seiya, who had been kicked out of the room, he was also completely bewildered. He stared at the Sharingan and Hashirama cells in his hands, completely unaware of his mistake. These were all high-end equipment. If he weren't already dead, he'd have gotten himself a full set. And now, he'd generously offered his collection, and not only was that Darumi Mae ungrateful, she was furious. It was unbelievable. Women's hearts are like the seabed. She was the one who said she was worried about being controlled by the Jinjutsu, and now I've come up with a viable solution, and she's pissed. Forget it, I'm going back to sleep. When I get back to the village, I'll show off my Sharingan, and Ao and the other Kirigakure ninjas will be licking their boots. Darumi Mae was still in the room, waiting for some idiot to understand what she truly wanted, but that Sigma Man had already returned to his bed, fast asleep. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Fighter Maintenance Technician and Death God Elementary School Student. Madarumi was worried she might be unconsciously being manipulated by someone else's Jinjutsu, but Seiya, in his impure world reincarnation state, was immune to Jinjutsu. Furthermore, as the fifth Mizukage and the captain of the Kirigakure Anbu, they worked together daily. So the answer Darumi was seeking was actually Seiya's promise to protect her, and that if Madarumi were truly under Jinjutsu, he would immediately detect it and pull her back, just as he had done today. If Seiya had given the correct answer tonight, he might not have been kicked out, but a different outcome would have occurred. Unfortunately, Seiya perfectly avoided all correct answers tonight and, rather unsociably, produced a series of terrifying or even destructive items. Seiya remained completely oblivious to all this, even thinking that Madarumi was a real nuisance. No wonder she hadn't married off in Boruto. After waiting until midnight and realizing Seiya hadn't returned to her room, Madarumi couldn't help but grumble, "That would an idiot. If he's this slow, I guess I'll have to be more explicit with my hints from now on, or I'll never get married." After a brief moment of muttering, a slight smile rose into Darumi's lips, as if a thought had dawned on her. After all, Seiya might be a little clumsy, but his care and concern for her couldn't be faked. Whether it was Uchiha Shisame's main Gekio Sharingan or the first Hokage's wood-release cells, they were surely quite precious. After hearing her concerns, Seiya offered them without hesitation, and even shared his plans, demonstrating his deep trust and care for her. Perhaps being a little clumsy wasn't necessarily a disadvantage, at least he wouldn't go around lying to Kunoichi. However, the matter of truly resurrecting Seiya must be addressed as soon as possible. After all, Madarumi is already older than the deceased Seiya, and the longer the time is delayed, the greater the age gap will become. Seiya, sleeping in the room next to Madarumi, naturally had no idea that his superior was actually coveting his body, as he had already returned to that dimension through a deep sleep. After passing through a long corridor and opening a door at the end, Kaguya Seiya once again arrived at a familiar vest space. Within the pure white space, several figures he had only just met gathered around a newcomer, discussing their experiences. The two new Seiyas who had arrived in this shared space appeared to be ordinary humans, not strange creatures at all. One of the Seiyas was older, appearing to be in his 20s, wearing a red and white uniform and a high-tech pistol strapped to his belt. According to him, He's a trainee member of the Victory Team from the Tiga world, and his daily job is to maintain the Victory Team's several vehicles, the Hitayan. Anyone who's watched Ultraman knows that while Ultraman is always the one to defeat the monsters, the human special forces responsible for fighting and investigating them make a significant appearance in every episode, regardless of the series. While many monsters are destroyed in the final minutes, the fighter jets still make an appearance, under the pretext of we can't leave everything to Ultraman, and humans can't just sit there and do nothing. The Victory Team is a special defense force in the Tiga world, specializing in fighting monsters and investigating extraterrestrial life. The Hitayan is the Victory Team's fighter jet, and its crash rate is one of the highest in any Ultraman series. The reason is simple: a certain guy who likes to make Gecko into soup often uses the crash of a fighter jet as cover to transform. As a member of the Victory Team who routinely maintains the Hitayan, Tiga Seiya's workload is immense. Although in the Tiga world, the Victory Team was merely a bunch of extras, and trainees like Seiya, confined to behind-the-scenes duties, were practically non-entities, never even appearing on screen. It's worth noting that as part of the Earth Defense Force, the Victory Team enjoyed excellent pay, even far better than the average civil servant. Seiya Tiga had originally imagined a lifetime of being a supporting actor, clinging to a stable job repairing airplanes, living a life of idleness until the world was destroyed or the monsters vanished and he retired. However, he never expected that, for some reason, several regular members of the Victory Team were injured and unable to go into battle, so he, the trainee, was temporarily promoted to regular and even sent to the battlefield. After years of repairing airplanes, Seiya was suddenly asked to shoot them down. However, just as the three giant stone statues glowed, Seiya, who had been sitting in his fighter jet, was suddenly enveloped by a white light. The next thing he knew, he appeared in an aisle, transformer in hand. Thinking there was no way back, he had to move forward. He walked the hallway, opened the door, and appeared immediately there. Besides the Tiga world Seiya, the other newcomer, Seiya, was also a high school student. This wasn't surprising to the many Seiyas present. After all, it's well known that high school students are the largest demographic for time travelers. Especially in Japanese anime, seemingly ordinary high school students are rarely anything like that. However, after sharing memories, all the Seiyas present looked at the newcomer with a rare expression of surprise. Because before the power sharing, the high school students before them was truly just an ordinary high school student. With an alcoholic father, a mother who died young, and a grandfather who raised him with great difficulty, only to pass away in the end, he was destined to be a lonely star, a true protagonist. However, through his memories, the many Seiyas present discovered that despite his impressive destiny, his life story was as dull as a third-rate web drama. Aside from a few exciting scenes, it was almost entirely boring. It wasn't that his family's sacrifice to the gods meant he couldn't achieve anything, but rather that the world he inhabited was just an ordinary one. No, to call it an ordinary world wouldn't be accurate. After all, in that world, there was a Shinigami student who had been in elementary school for over 20 years and could kill at least one Shinigami every day. That's right, this other newcomer, Seiya, was a third-year student at Teton High School in Bikacho, Tokyo, the same world where the infamous Shinigami students lived. Besides being a student, he was also a third-rate high school detective. To support himself, he did everything from fortune-telling to locating people and things, even babysitting and unclogging sewers. As long as the pay was high enough, he'd do anything. Chapter 184 Yu-Gi-Oh! World, Duel City opens. The two newcomers, Seiya, had no idea they were also the chosen ones, possessing cheats. A wave of power and shared memories suddenly made them feel powerful again. Compared to the excitement of the two newcomers, the Seiyas from other worlds present were somewhat disappointed. After all, while the world these two newcomers inhabited wasn't ordinary, their inherent combat power wasn't high. The Seiyas from other worlds present, including Naruto Seiya and Juke Seiya, were currently unable to fully guarantee their safety due to the higher levels of combat power in their worlds, so they were hoping for a powerful figure to cling to. Actually, looking at it from another angle, combat power is only one aspect. World factors themselves can also bring us some other kinds of boosts, right? For example, the technological level in Tiga's world should be quite high, which means we might be able to climb the tech tree. The virtual world seed Kayaba Akihiko gave me earlier was beyond my scientific capabilities, so it's been sitting there gathering dust. And since Tiga Seiya is able to repair fighter jets on the Victory Team, You must be quite an authority in the field of science, right? Upon hearing Sword Seiya's question, Tiga instantly pounded his chest. If it were a battle of combat power, he might be average, but when it comes to scientific research, he was a top student in school before graduation, right? Otherwise, do you think an organization like the Earth Defense Force, which protects Earth, is something anyone can join? Look at Horii and Noriyu. They're both geniuses with exceptional scientific and computational abilities. While the Victory team seems to be mostly just supporting characters in the anime, the actual members are all exceptionally talented, leaders among the average Joes. Lena, seemingly a vase, is actually an ace pilot who graduated from a top military academy. Shinjo, seemingly impulsive and reckless, is also an ace shooter from his class. If we were to choose the one with the worst resume among these people, it would probably be Deiko. He was originally a staff member in TPC's transportation department. It was only after rescuing Director Sawai from alien abduction 3 years ago that his courage and judgment earned him a transfer to the Victory team. The same is true for Seiya. His academic performance was near perfect, and he excelled in programming and computers, which is why he was recruited to the Victory team to repair fighter jets. The virtual world seed left by Kaiba Akihiko was inoperable in the hands of Sword Seiya, but in the hands of Tiga Seiya, it was easily dismantled into a series of digital programs. Seeing this, Globman Seiya and Kuribo Seiya were instantly excited. As everyone knows, the digital world and the Yu-Gi-Oh world they inhabit are all closely related to data and scientific research. The virtual world seed, combined with its near-maximum scientific research capability, is practically tailor-made for them. In the Yu-Gi-Oh world, the spirit world where the dual monsters reside, Seiya, having just returned from Between Hearts and Dreams, is incredibly excited. Sharing Seiya's abilities with the Tiga world might not be a significant benefit to other Seiyas, but for him, it's incredibly significant. The virtual world seed given by Kaiba Akihiko was originally exclusive to Swordmaster Seiya. After all, the only things that could be shared between Hearts and Dreams were their abilities and memories, not external objects. But now, with the memories and abilities of a scientific prodigy like Tiga Seiya, they're fully capable of replicating the same thing in a matter of seconds. A virtual world seed, combined with dual monsters, isn't this a clear sign of trouble? Dual Pokemon can travel to the real world, as Dark Magician Girl has done on more than one occasion in search of King Sama. However, compared to the spirit world, most dual Pokemon, due to the rules, don't easily appear in the real world. Seiya used to be afraid to wander around because he felt too weak, but now he's undeniably the strongest Kali in history. If he doesn't find some fun in the real world, it would be a disgrace to his time traveler status. Downtown Dejino City is hosting a massive duel tournament called Duel City. This tournament is organized by Kaiba Corporation's president, Sito Kaiba. The winner not only receives a large prize but also earns the title of Duel King, reigning supreme in the world of dual monster cards. What? You're saying the title of Duel King is useless? No, no, no. If it were any other world, then perhaps that's true, but this is the Yu-Gi-Oh world. As a native of this world, you can skip studying, work, dating, and even eating, but you can't skip playing cards. In this world, whether you're aiming for the top of your life or facing any conflict, all you need to do is play your cards well. For example, imagine you're facing a terrorist attack or even an assassin. In this life or death situation, all you need to do is slap your deck onto the duel board, and your opponent will undoubtedly engage in a thrilling duel. And if you prevail in the duel, no matter how dangerous the opponent is, they'll instantly bow down before you. Even more outrageous, even if the Grim Reaper comes knocking, if you slap your deck onto the duel board and defeat them, even if they were the Grim Reaper, they'll turn away in disgrace. While this may seem outrageous, in this world of card players, playing cards is paramount. And the title of Duel King simply means the ultimate card player. In a world where playing cards is paramount, imagine how alluring such a title is. Kaiba Corporation is hosting this large-scale Duel City tournament, partly because Kaiba wants to redeem themselves and defeat Yuji Muto, who previously dominated them in the Duel Kingdom. He also learned of the existence of god cards from Isis, the owner of the Thousand Hands jewelry. Therefore, in order to obtain 3 god cards and stand above all duelists, Kaiba held this tournament, with the added rule of betting one's own rare cards. Simply put, duelists participating in the Duel City receive a puzzle card upon registration. To advance through the preliminaries, players must obtain 8 puzzle cards, The number of puzzle cards used as stakes in each duel is determined by the duelists themselves. In addition to the puzzle cards, the losing duelist must also give one of their own rare cards to their opponent. This means that consistently victorious duelists will accumulate more rare cards and become increasingly powerful, while the losers will simply become fodder for the stronger, creating a true law and error duel. Chapter 185 Become the spirit behind the peacock dance. Compared to the previous Duel Kingdom, the rules of Duel City have been significantly refined, making it impossible to play around like before. Not only has health increased from 2,000 to 4,000, but new features have also been added, including advanced summons and direct attacks. Furthermore, Keiba's development of the next-generation duel discs has further elevated the already global popularity of duel monsters to new heights. While the card gambling rules may be a deterrent for many, the free duel discs are a real draw. Because the first batch of duel discs is limited in quantity, Keiba has stated that they will only be distributed to true duelists. A true duelist is defined as a duelist with an overall strength rating of 5 stars, the highest being 7 stars, as assessed by Keiba's system. Duelists who reach 5 stars and participate in Duel City can obtain duel discs for free at various stores. As for duelists who fall short, unfortunately, you're not yet considered a true duelist. Duelists who meet the stats but don't participate in Duel City will also be unable to obtain a duel disc. Don't ask why. If you can't even accept a challenge, how can you be called a true duelist? Keiba Corporation won't provide such cowards with their latest products. It's for this reason that duelists wearing duel discs on the streets now instantly attract considerable attention. After all, duelists who can wield a duel disc are recognized as true duelists with proven prowess. In a world where card games reign supreme, such a status is no less prestigious than that of an idol walking down the street. It's perfectly normal to receive the kind of attention one would expect from an idol star. Life is all about fame and fortune, and with this opportunity right before their eyes, it's no surprise that this Duel City is experiencing unprecedented popularity. Seiya Kirito transforms into an ordinary human child, wandering through Domino City, searching for his target. As a duel spirit, while he could move around in the real world, his stay there was limited, so his desire to be a card master was clearly out of the question. Since he couldn't be the card master himself, he could only find a qualified tool and then act as the spirit behind the scenes. Did they say this Duel City would gather the nation's strongest duelists? Why are there so many idiots? Seiya had been in Domino City for a while, hoping to find a suitable tool, but after a look around, he found the real duelists rated by Keiba Corporation to be woefully underwhelming. A 7-star mortal bone monster with 2,000 attack points that even require 2 sacrifices to summon. Could such a thing be called an ace? P.S. Mortal Bone, a base monster with no special effects. After watching 3 duels, Seiya was despairing. While his expectations for a tool weren't high, these people were just too weak. If he couldn't even stand before the protagonists, how could he have fun? But after careful consideration, Seiya found it less surprising. After all, as a time traveler and a former amateur card player, he'd known for a vast array of duel card sets. In his current world, however, duel monsters had only recently developed, and even the rules weren't fully established. It wasn't entirely surprising that the duelists' skills and the cards they held were somewhat weaker. My turn, final blow. I'm using my harpy to attack the hell undead, a high-pitched female voice echoed. And a slender, feathered harpy soared into the air, stomping the cloud of skull smoke in front of her into smithereens. As his monster was defeated, a middle-aged man let out an unexplained wail, his health reduced to 0. Alright, you've already lost. Leave your puzzle and rare cards behind, and get out of here. Hearing the blonde's merciless words, the defeated muscular brother didn't dare to utter a word, obediently taking out his rare and puzzle cards. Peacock Dance glanced at the rare card, pinching it between 2 fingers. A single glance revealed a look of disdain. It was clear that the rare card the opponent had given her was of very low value and wouldn't fit into her deck. After defeating the man, Peacock Dance glanced around and noticed that several duelists in the crowd, also wearing duel discs, had retreated upon meeting her gaze, instantly losing interest. Ignoring the cheers from the crowd, Peacock Dance strode towards her sports car. Just as she was about to find a new hunting ground, she suddenly noticed a small figure standing in front of her. What's wrong? You're a duelist too. Want to duel with me? Though the other person's robes made it hard to see his features, and he was short, Kong Wu didn't let that discourage him. She'd seen plenty of shorter duelists before, like a certain gamer, a bug enthusiast, and a dinosaur enthusiast. While they looked like elementary school students, their dueling prowess was undeniable. No, I stopped you simply because I saw your duel just now and I think you're a truly exceptional duelist. Before Seiya could finish, Kong Wu said with a familiar expression, flirting? But I don't like men who are weaker than me, understand? If you have nothing else to do, please get out of the way. I have other things to do. Upon hearing Kong Wu's words, Seiya didn't say anything else. He could sense that the real world was increasingly repelling him, so he pulled out 2 cards and handed them to Kong Wu. You're the strongest duelist I've met so far. These 2 cards are for you, hoping they'll bring you good luck. Peacock Dance's face shifted to confusion upon hearing Seiya's words, but instinctively, she reached out and took the 2 cards Seiya handed her. Condor Queen, a 4-star monster from the beast type. Attack. 1900 defense. 1200 effect. As long as this card's card name exists on the field or in the graveyard, treat it as Condor Lady. Activate this effect by discarding this card from your hand to the graveyard. Add 1 Condor Lady's hunting grounds from your deck to your hand. Condor, Kirito, a 1-star monster from the beast type. Attack. 300 defense. 200 effect. As long as this card's card name exists on the field or in the graveyard, treat it as Condor Lady. As long as there are other Condor Lady cards on the field besides this card cannot be destroyed by battle and cannot be destroyed by the effects of monsters, spells, or traps. For each Condor Lady card on the field or in the graveyard, this card's ATK increases by that number x 300. This card can only be special summoned. When there are 2 or more Condor Lady cards on the field, this card can be special summoned. Condor Queen has a base card, so there's no need to find this one, as it's the main character. Chapter 186 Printing myself as a card and giving it away. Upon seeing the 2 cards in her hand, Peacock Dance was stunned. They seemed incredibly powerful, and both were rarer than she'd ever seen before. As everyone knows, before the introduction of the Duel City rule requiring sacrifices for advanced summons, the rarity and value of duel cards were generally determined by their star rating and attack power. After all, in the Duel Kingdom game, monsters of any star rating could be directly summoned, so monsters with higher star ratings and greater attack power were naturally more sought after. But things are different now. With the advent of the more refined Duel City game rules, duel monsters no longer become more powerful or rare with higher star ratings. 4-star monsters that can be directly summoned are now the norm in duels. As a top-tier duelist, Peacock Dance, with just one glance, realized the sheer value of the Condor Queen, a 4-star monster with 1900 attack points. Not to mention its low star, high attack card, Condor Queen also boasts a powerful special effect, perfectly fitting her deck. Condor Queen is already so impressive, so needless to say, Condor, Kirito is even more impressive. While this card's initial attack isn't high, and is a 1-star monster, it faces the stringent requirement of being special summoned. Its special effect is truly formidable, offering significant resistance and the ability to stack attack damage. It's undoubtedly the strongest 1-star monster Peacock Dance has ever encountered. Peacock Dance used to look down on low-star mascots like Kirito, but after being taught a lesson by Yuji Kirito in Duel Kingdom, she's finally put aside her disdain. And now, with Condor, Kirito in her hand, she's truly experienced the power of the Kirito dragon. Both its special effects and attack power are incredibly powerful, not to mention its rarity. Peacock Dance plays the Condor deck, but she'd never even heard of these 2 Condor cards, let alone seen them. In a world where cards reign supreme, rare cards are the equivalent of wealth, holding a status on par with real estate and gold. Upon seeing these 2 cards, Peacock Dance's heart was instantly drawn. Although she knew she probably couldn't afford them, she still wanted to ask if the other party was willing to part with them. But just as Peacock Dance looked away from the cards in her hand and tried to talk to the boy in front of her, she was stunned to find that he had vanished. Such precious cards, and he actually gave them away like that? Who is that person? Peacock Dance hesitated, looking at the Condor Queen and Condor Chestnut Ball in her hands, before ultimately adding them to her deck. There was no other way. The opponents in this Duel City were too strong. If she wanted to defeat Kaba, Yuji, and the others, she would need to gain new strength. As for the little boy who gave her the card, the worst that could happen is she'll just give him some of the winnings when she sees him again. Having just acquired a powerful new card, Kong Wu was full of fighting spirit. Just as she got into her sports car, Ready to find new prey to test her new powers, several figures suddenly darted into her sight. And one of them happened to be someone Konkwu knew. Isn't that Honda? Why aren't you with Yuji and Jinouchi? Konkwu had met Yuji and the others during their time in Dual Kingdom, and he knew that Yuji and Jinouchi were close friends. Even though Kyoko, who couldn't play cards, and Honda, one was Yuji's henchman, the other Jinouchi's henchman, the four of them were often inseparable. It was quite rare for them to act alone like this. Besides Honda, he was accompanied by a beautiful girl with long chestnut hair and a black-haired, delinquent-looking boy. Upon seeing Peacock dance, Honda was overjoyed. He quickly hopped Shizuka into Peacock Dance's sports car, hoping she'd take them on a run. During their conversation, Peacock Dance learned that the adorable, long-haired girl named Shizuka was actually the younger sister of the emoticon king Jinouchi. The reason for their desperate escape was that Malik's duelist organization was hunting them. They intended to take Jinouchi, Yuji, and the others' friends hostage. Honda and his friends either didn't know how to play cards or were simply too weak to stand a chance against the duelists, so they had no choice but to flee. Following Honda's explanation, Peacock Dance, who had been driving the sports car, suddenly pulled to a stop with a stunning drift. Honda and Mikaryuji were stunned by this, staring at Peacock Dance in confusion. "Miss Mai, what are you doing? Running away isn't going to work. Why not finish them off here?" Peacock Dance released the steering wheel, giving her golden curls a confident shake. "But there are two of them. Shizuka doesn't know how to duel, and Mika and I, well, we don't even have our decks with us." In front of their goddess, Honda and Mikaryuji didn't want to show their incompetence, believing they couldn't help, so they made excuses. "It doesn't matter. They're not the boss of gurus, right? They're just minor characters. I can easily take on two of them." Hearing Konkwu's words, Shizuka clasped her hands together, feeling that the stranger Konkwu was incredibly handsome and reliable. The moment Konkwu stopped her sports car, two Harleys spun to a stop, and two burly men dismounted from the mannequins. No wonder Honda, a master fighter, was being chased. With a physique like that, a high school student wouldn't stand a chance against him. Seeing Konkwu and the others suddenly stop running, the gurus duo were initially puzzled, but upon seeing Konkwu, now wearing the dual disc, their faces lit up with understanding. Although there is an extra Peacock Dance, the duelist duo has a physique comparable to that of a bodybuilder, and they can easily defeat Honda and others with force. However, when seeing Peacock Dance raise the dual disc in their hands, the duelist duo still cooperated and raised the dual disc in their hands to fight. Yes, you read it right, it is obviously just a matter of the finishing touch, but the duel must still be fought. After all, no matter whether it is the boss's mission or something else, the world is big, but playing cards is the biggest. This is the world of card players. Woman, you are so brave, you actually dare to provoke us duelists. Soon we will let you know what true cruelty is. Chapter 187 Girl, congratulations on activating the card printing system. Peacock Dance paid no heed to Gruss's typically villainous remarks. Instead, she extended her hand and unfolded the dual disc. The disc's ejector activated, and a virtual battle area unfolded around her. "Go. My turn, draw a card." With a loud shout, Gruss seized the initiative and drew a card from his deck. Honda and Mikaryuji, witnessing this, were furious at their opponent's shameless behavior. A 2-on-1 battle was already unfair, and the opponent had the audacity to seize initiative. "I attack summon City Guardian Wyvern, and then cover a card." End turn, City Guardian Wyvern, a 4-star wind dragon monster with 1400 attack and 1200 defense, a flash of light appeared, and a blue, seemingly overfed wyvern, flapping its wings, appeared on the opponent's field. Next's my turn, draw a card. As Gulis A's turn ended, Gulis B quickly followed suit. According to the rules of a 1 versus 2 duel, the two players should have exchanged turns. After all, the two-player team, with 2 fields and 2 turns, already had a significant advantage. But Gulis was a notoriously evil organization. They wouldn't argue about fairness. Winning the duel and taking the opponent's rare card was the proper course of action. "I attack and summon Wasteland Bones." End of turn, Wasteland Bones, a 3-star monster, demon type, earth, attack 1200, defense 800. As Gulis B slammed his card onto the duel board, a skeleton in the shape of an elephant rose from the ground. Seeing that both of their players had summoned monsters in their first turn, with impressive attack power, Gulis and his companions were instantly smug. We at Duelist possess the most advanced card cloning technology, so even the rarest and most insignificant cards can be easily obtained. You simply cannot possibly stand up to us. In Seiya's eyes, mortal bone cards with 1,400 and 1,200 attack points were the utter trash of the worst. But when he saw the genuine confidence on the faces of the Duelist duo, he realized he had been prejudiced. Indeed, due to changes in the duel rules and the current surge in card releases, 1,400 and 1,200 attack points are considered quite powerful among the 4-star monsters that can be directly summoned. At least for most mainstream players these days, they even use mortal bone monsters with 1,500 attack points as their trump cards. Even Peacock Dance's favorite, Condor Girl, only has a mere 1,300 attack points. Furthermore, the reason for the Duelist duo's confidence is that they have already drawn trump cards from various decks. Grus, who summoned Winged Dragon of the Castle, was using a dragon deck, and his trump card was the 6-star Cursed Dragon, with a whopping 2,000 ATK. Grus, who summoned Bone of the Wasteland, was using a demon deck renowned for its power, and his trump card was the king of 6-star monsters, Devil Summon. Both Cursed Dragon and Devil Summon were 6-star monsters with powerful attack power, and only required one tribute. Even if Peacock Dance drew a monster with higher ATK than either of them on the next turn, at best, they could only defeat one of them. In a team duel, you can use your partner's monster for a higher summon during your turn. This means that on the next turn, either Cursed Dragon or Devil Summon will be summoned. If your opponent can't even draw a card with higher ATK than their monsters on the field during their first turn, then, sorry. Both Cursed Dragon and Devil Summon will appear simultaneously. Honda, how is Mai's dueling ability? Can she win under these circumstances? Ryuji Otoji wasn't very familiar with Madoka, so she could only ask Honda beside her. How should I put it? Mai is very strong too. She's in the top 4 of the Duel Kingdom. She just lost to Yuji due to bad luck. Honda still believed in Madoka's ability, but he also felt that with 2 opponents going one against the other, and the opponent cheating, the situation was very unfavorable for them. Top 4? I think Janouchi was runner-up, right? Doesn't that mean Mai is even weaker than Janouchi? Thinking of Janouchi's purely luck-based fighting style, Ryuji Otoji suddenly lost some of her confidence. Hearing Ryuji Otoji and Honda's discussion, Madoka's mouth twitched. She wanted to say that if it weren't for her luck, she, Madoka, could easily defeat a gambler like Janouchi. But when she thought of Janouchi's sister nearby, she decided against it and decided to take it out on the 2 supporting villains in front of her. My turn, draw a card, carry. A voice like a soul wave echoed beside her. Peacock Dance looked at the card she had drawn, a look of disbelief on her face. The card she had drawn was Condor Chestnut Ball, which she had just acquired and added to her deck. However, the reason for Peacock Dance's surprise wasn't the card itself. The reason for her astonishment was that, even before she even slapped the card onto the duel board, the winged chestnut ball winked at her and flew out of the deck. Carry, chestnut ball flew in front of her, speaking incoherent words. Even more incredible, Peacock Dance understood everything. Brave girl, I can sense the duelist's spirit surging within you. The card system has been activated. Your first quest is now issued. Defeat the duelist chaser before you. The quest reward is 3 card packs. The packs contain random rare cards, including the rare card you just obtained, Condor Queen. Looking at the Condor chestnut ball floating in front of her, chattering a lot at her, Peacock Dance even felt like she was dreaming. Card system? Activate the Condor series deck? Mission reward card pack? What are these things? Hey, it's your turn now. Don't think you can just stand there and act stupid. If you want to admit defeat, do it directly and don't waste everyone's time. Peacock Dance, who was confused, finally reacted after being yelled at impatiently by the opponent's Guru's duo. After taking a look at the Condor chestnut ball in her hand, and then at the 2 supporting villains in front of her, Peacock Dance finally decided to defeat the opponent in front of her first. After all, no matter whether all this is true or not, the fact that she must defeat the opponent will not change. What Seiya calls card system is actually a thing he made by himself based on the programming of the virtual world seed and combined with the scientific research knowledge of Tiga Seiya. Dual monsters are virtual creations, and with the seeds and technology of the virtual world, Seiya is fully capable of replicating and materializing the cards he knew in his past life in this world. Well, to put it more simply, it's card printing. Chapter 188 Summon the Chestnut Dragon Eagle Chestnut Ball. It's no secret that a true duelist can not only draw incredibly well, but also print cards on the spot. The reason Peacock Dance lost to Yuji Muto in Duel Kingdom was simply a combination of a king-like draw and card printing, and he even justified it by saying it was because he trusted his cards, and they responded to his expectations. The protagonists are all cheating, and want Peacock Dance to face them head-on, so how could he not have a cheat? On my turn, I summoned Condor Queen from my hand in attacking mode. As Peacock Dance pressed the card in her hand onto the duel disc, a sexy girl with white wings and a long green ponytail also appeared on her own field. Condor Queen, a 4-star monster, wind attribute bird beast. Attack. 1900 defense. 1200. When the opponents, the duelist duo, saw that the combat power of the Condor Queen was as high as 1900 points, they were obviously stunned on the spot. Then they exclaimed on the spot, a 4-star monster has an attack power of 1900 points, which is simply impossible. We in duelists have the most advanced card imitation technology in the world, but we have never even heard of a card like this. Looking at the sexy and hot Condor Queen in front of her, and hearing the words of the duelist duo, Peacock Dance's face showed an expression of as expected. Before, she thought that she had never seen the card Condor Queen and was just ignorant. But now it seemed that this wasn't the case. If not only she, but even the Gruss organization, which possessed the world's card data, didn't know about this card, then it was possible that the Condor Queen she held would soon become a super rare card, the only one in the world. Of course, Peacock Dance hadn't considered the possibility of a fake card. After all, the fact that this card had passed Cable's virtual image battle system meant it was recognized. HMPH, even if it's a monster with 1900 attack points, so what? We have 2 monsters on the field, and you can only attack one. Next turn, we can sacrifice the remaining monster to perform a high summon and completely crush your ace monster. Peacock Dance's ability to summon such a high attack rare card on the first turn was indeed somewhat unexpected by the Gruss duo. However, given the current situation, they weren't panicking, as Cursed Dragon and Devil summons in their hands both had higher attack power than Condor Queen. In addition to summoning Wind Dragon of the Castle, Gruss A had previously covered a card. This card was actually a trap card called Explosive Armor. Its effect was quite simple. The monster that declared an attack would be destroyed. If the opponent actually attacked with Condor Queen, it would be self-destructive. Then it's my turn, Gruss A said, eager to summon Cursed Dragon in his hand. When did I say my turn was over? Peacock Dance said angrily to the impatient Gruss members. You still want to attack? Go ahead. Hearing Peacock Dance's words, Gruss Dragon was even more delighted. If Peacock Dance declared an attack, Condor Queen would be destroyed by his trap card. The opponent's field would be empty for the next turn, and the combined attack power of Cursed Dragon and Demon Summon they had summoned would be 4,500. A single direct attack could wipe out 4,000 of the opponent's life points. I'm going to activate the spell card Mangela Mirror, gorgeous clone from my hand. This card's effect targets a Condor Lady on the field and special summon up to 2 Condor Ladies from your hand or deck. Condor Queen's special effect allows it to be used as a Condor Lady as long as this card is on the field or in the graveyard. A 4-star monster with 1900 attack points has a special effect, the duelist supporting duo exclaimed. Using the spell card Mangela Mirror transformation effect, I'm going to special summon Condor Lady 1 and Condor Lady 2 from my deck. Condor Lady 1 special effect activates. While this card is on the field, all wind monsters on the field gain 300 attack points. Condor Queen's attack. 1900 to 2200, Condor Lady number 1, attack. 1300 to 1600, Condor Lady number 2, attack. 1300 to 1600, Castle Guard Wyvern, attack. 1400 to 1700. Because Condor Lady number 1 special effect affects the entire field, the opponent's Castle Guard Wyvern, also a wind type, also gains a boost in attack. Seeing the Peacock Dance suddenly increase to 3 monsters, with Condor Queen boasting a whopping 2,200 attack, grows, the dragon said, panicked. But thinking of the trap cards he had covered, he calmed down. His Castle Guard Wyvern, with its increased attack power, now outperformed Condor Lady number 1 and number 2. If the opponent wanted to attack, they could only use Condor Queen. If the opponent used Condor Queen, he would activate a trap card. Regardless, his Castle Guard Wyvern would definitely not be destroyed this turn. As long as he could hold out until the end of his opponent's turn, Even if his cursed dragon couldn't defeat the increased attack power of Condor Queen, he still had his partner's demon summon. However, Viewless Dragon's hope was quickly dashed by Peacock Dance. After using Magnificent Kaleidoscope, Peacock Dance played another spell card. Activate spell card, Burial of the Dead. This card's effect is to discard a card from your hand and destroy a monster on your opponent's field. And the one I'm destroying is undoubtedly the Wyvern defending the castle. As Peacock Dance tossed a card into the graveyard, a cascade of bandages erupted from under the Wyvern defending the castle, mummifying it. No matter how it roared, it was powerless. Because the trap card Explosive Armor covered by Viewless Dragon's suit only worked on the monster that had declared an attack, it was powerless to destroy the spell card. Damn it, but even so, we still have plenty of life points. If I draw the key next turn, you don't have a next turn, because I'm going to finish you this turn. Before the Guru's members could finish their words, they were interrupted by Peacock Dance, and she slapped another card to the duel board and said, "Finally, I want to special summon this card in my hand, Condor, Kurabana. This card cannot be normal summoned. It can only be special summoned from the hand if there are 2 or more Condor ladies on the field. Condor, Kurabana, a 1-star monster, wind attribute bird beast type. Attack power. 300 defense power. 200. It felt quite fresh when Seiya was summoned for the first time, so when he appeared on the stage, he also looked around, and then took a short step and jumped to the shoulders of the Condor Queen. Chapter 189 The Eagle is killed in one go. This is the ability of the system Dad. Don't ask why Seiya jumped onto the shoulders of Condor Queen, it's because this young lady here has the biggest heart. And standing on her shoulders, from that vantage point, you can see many sights you wouldn't normally see. Condor Queen's special effect is activated. Besides being usable as a Condor girl on the field or in the graveyard, this card also has another special effect. Its attack power increases by 300 times the number of Condor girls on the field or in the graveyard. Condor Queen's attack power is 300-600. Condor Girl number 1 special effect adds 300 wind-type attack points. Including Condor Queen itself, I have 4 Condor monsters on the field, Condor Queen, Condor Girl number 1, and Condor Girl number 2. Add to that the spell I just activated on Burial of the Dead, and the card I threw into my hand was also a Condor Girl. So Condor Queen's attack power is now 600 plus 5x 300 equals 2100. Along with the Condor goddesses around him, they all gave Seiya a kiss, and Seiya's originally brown furry body began to turn pure white. The originally short wings and claws began to grow bigger, but the round body was still so mini. To put it simply, the wings on the back have become bigger, and there are a lot of special effects on the body, but the chestnut ball itself is still so mini and cute. A 1-star monster with an attack power of 2100, is this a joke? The Guileless duo were stumped by Seiya's adorable appearance, yet he possessed a whopping 2100 attack points. It was a low attack monster with only 300 attack points, but with all the added attack buffs, it now boasted 2100 attack points. Absurd. Unbeknownst to them, 2100 attack points wasn't the limit for Seiya's Condor Chestnut Ball. Its special effect multiplied the number of Condor monsters by 300. Even if the maximum number of monsters on the field was 5, the graveyard had no such limit. With enough graveyards, Seiya's attack power could rival that of Blue Eyes White Dragon, or even a god card, becoming a true Curdle Dragon. Battle. I'm going to use Condor Chestnut Ball to attack the remaining monsters on your field. Peacock Dance tossed her long, wavy blonde hair as she charged forward with Seiya without hesitation. Carry. Seiya, having received the attack order, stretched out his short arms, flexing his non-existent muscles, before lunging at the opponent's lone monster with his fangs bared. You're being careless. Just as you declare an attack, I'm also going to activate the trap card on the field. Activate Explosive Armor to destroy the attacking monster. Small monsters that have become stronger with their special abilities, get out of here. As the opponent's trap card activated, a beam of white light shot towards Seiya. However, before it could even reach Seiya, it was shattered by his gaping maw. As the light shattered, the opponent's newly opened trap card shattered like porcelain before his bewildered gaze. Condor Chestnut Ball's third special effect, as long as there is a Condor girl other than yourself on the field, this card cannot be destroyed by battle, negates damage from monsters, spells, and traps, and destroys the target. Because the trap card Explosive Armor was invalidated and destroyed, Seiya, who had an attack power of up to 2100, just kicked the huge elephant bone monster with his little feet, and it collapsed. Although there was a big difference in size, the rules of the duel monsters were there. With his own attack power of 2100 and the opponent's attack power of only 1200, what could he use to fight him? To put it bluntly, if Osiris's Sky Dragon only had an attack power of 2000 points, now he, Condor, Kirito, Seiya, could also kick a traitor dragon. A 1-star small monster not only has such a high attack power, but also has such a strong special effect. How can there be such a card in this world? As Seiya's attack ended, the other Condor girls also launched a wave of direct attacks, instantly reducing the health of the Guru's duo to 0. Honda and the others were also stunned to see that Peacock Dance had fought 1 against 2, not only winning the opponent but even completing a kill. Congratulations, young lady. Since you've successfully completed your novice mission, I'm rewarding you with a new card pack. After the battle, the other Condor girls vanished as the virtual devices deactivated, but Peacock Dance was stunned to discover that the Condor chestnut ball before her hadn't vanished. And despite constantly mumbling Cree, she could surprisingly understand what it was saying. Who are you, or rather, what kind of creature are you? The fact that she could understand it meant it was capable of communication. While Honda and the others were tying up the 2 defeated duelist men, Peacock Dance looked at the Condor chestnut ball and asked her own question. As you can see, I'm a duel monster. Only true duelists can see me. As for calling me that, I'd prefer you to call me Seiya, an individual name, rather than a specious name like Kirito. Don't worry about whether you're dreaming. I'm not the only duel monster there is. Of course, a duel monster like me who can help you cheat is definitely one of a kind. Seiya's words didn't discredit Peacock Dance, as she had just pulled 3 so-called reward packs from her skirt pocket. To say this was all a dream would be too real. Since you say you're a duel monster, I have a question. There are probably many duelists better than me, so why did you choose me? Seiya initially wanted to say he was just choosing the tallest of the short ones, and that meeting Peacock Dance was a coincidence, but that would have been too much of a blow to the girl's confidence. I firmly chose you over the crowd because of your big waves. No, it's because of your big thunder, or rather, because I sensed your strong duelist spirit. You must be thirsty for power, right? And you have a goal you want to conquer, right? Since being a ghost is the only way to stay in the real world for a long time, Seiya naturally prefers a beautiful woman with good looks, legs, and breasts over those boys who look like delinquents. How do you say I'm the chosen duelist? Because of her past experiences, Peacock Dance isn't one to trust easily. However, seeing her suspicious expression, Seiya didn't indulge her. If you doubt me, I can find someone else. Just kidding. Seiya admitted that Peacock Dance had the looks and the breasts, but he was now the system's boss. It's okay for a mere figurehead to not lick his boots, but you actually dared to doubt him. While female duelists in Yu-Gi-Oh! DM, the first game, were rare, they weren't completely absent. Even if we take a step back, he can still go find the heroine Asuka Imajima in the second part of GX. Although she may still be a lolly now, he can definitely play the role of nurturing her. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 New Mission, a friendly battle like the one that intercepts the king. Seeing Seiya's move to leave, Peacock Dance reached out anxiously and hugged the fur ball in front of her. You're kidding. She was a real chosen duelist. She'd even received the cheats, so how could she be turned away? Any talk of conspiracy and subterfuge was probably just overthinking. She was indeed from a noble family, but something had happened to her, leaving her completely alone. How could she possibly be deceived? It was one thing for other men to covet her beauty, but he was a dual spirit, so how could he covet her body? Besides, Condor Queen and Condor Chestnut Ball were real cards that appeared before her, and Peacock Dance had just experienced their power. How could she possibly let go now? Feeling his face pressed into the surprisingly soft flesh of 2 balls, Seiya froze. Having to admit, choosing a female tool was advantageous over a male one. But perhaps out of fear that Seiya would truly abandon her, Peacock Dance's grip on his arm was a bit tight, so tight that he felt suffocated. What are you doing? As a dual spirit, Seiya could not be seen by anyone except those who had been chosen. For this reason, Peacock Dance's behavior seemed somewhat strange to Honda and the others. However, it was Honda and the others' restraints that freed Seiya from the painful yet blissful bondage of the true face cleanser. Honda, is there anything else you need? Didn't I take care of all of Gulis's pursuers? Honestly, at this point in the story, Peacock Dance's relationship with the protagonists was decent, but only at the level of casual friends. Peacock Dance's assistance to Honda and the others was also a way of repaying a favor she owed them in the Dual Kingdom. Wu, if possible, could you please take us to the dock? Please. Gress was a powerful evil organization. Peacock Dance had just saved them, which was a very good thing. They shouldn't let them take on greater risks with them. But in the current situation, if they didn't rush to save their companions, both Janouchi and Anzi would be in danger. They had no proper transportation, and by the time they got to the dock, Janouchi and the others would be dead. And the Gress members who had captured Anzi and Kawakipi were definitely quite a few duelists. Honda was fine fighting Ryuji Mika, but when it came to duel, it was impossible to send Shizuka, who knew nothing at all, right? Peacock Dance had just fought two enemies at once, and Honda and the others had witnessed it. They both agreed that the Grust minions would be a piece of cake for Peacock Dance. Sister Wu, please help my brother and the others. Guru's was a powerful, evil organization, and Peacock Dance didn't want to get involved if she could help it, especially since she had to figure out how to keep her newly acquired cheat code. Her earlier doubts seemed to have angered the arrogant duel spirit. What if it truly abandoned her for another female duelist? Peacock Dance wanted to refuse, but a glance at Honda and Shizuka, who bowed 90 degrees before her, made her hesitate. On one side was a friend who had once helped her, and on the other was a formidable force. How could she choose? If it were her old self, she would have chosen the latter without hesitation. Having seen through the world's dangers, she was naturally selfish. But now, triggering new mission, save friends, mission, defeat the mastermind behind the Operation City and completely crush the Guru's organization's conspiracy. A true duelist fears no challenge, nor will she sit idly by while her friends face hardship. Mission reward. 5 Condor card packs. Penalty for failure. This system will detach from its host to search for the true duelist. Peacock Dance, who had been hesitant, froze for a moment when the virtual interface suddenly popped up before her. Then, looking at Honda and the others, she said, "Get in the car. It's at that pier. I'll take you there." Seeing the so-called system mission, Peacock Dance was delighted. Since her cheat code allowed her to rescue people, she no longer had to choose between two options. However, the only thing that bothered her was that, compared to the previous missions, this one actually had a penalty. Sure enough, that chestnut ball called Seiya is still angry about what I said. Perhaps hearing Peacock Dance's inner thoughts, Seiya flapped his small wings and appeared beside Peacock Dance without warning. He said, "Girl, you think too much? This elf is not a petty person. There are rewards and punishments for everything. This is the normal logic. If you reward blindly, it will only make you degenerate. If everything goes smoothly, you will inevitably become arrogant, which is not conducive to becoming a first-class duelist. Therefore, there are rewards for completing tasks and penalties for failures. This will better stimulate your motivation and make you a better duelist, Toolman." As for why there was no task penalty mechanism for the previous tasks, it was entirely because they were novice tasks. After all, as a newcomer, you always have to give some newcomer benefits. After hearing Seiya's explanation, Peacock Dance, who was driving, stopped talking. After all, Seiya's words were reasonable and well-founded, and she really couldn't find any reason to refute. Without the pursuers of the Gulis organization, and thanks to the Peacock Dancer's exceptional drifting skills, when the Peacock Dancers arrived at the stage Malik had prepared for the Nameless Pharaoh, the protagonist, Yuji Muto, had not yet arrived. On a wooden bridge shaped like a mouth, Janouchi, controlled by Malik using the Millennium Scepter, stood on one side. Chains were tied to his ankles, and a health box next to his heels displayed his health. Once his opponent's health reached 0, the box beneath his feet would unlock, revealing the key to unlocking the chains. This was Malik's elaborate dark game for the Nameless Pharaoh, a duel in which only one player could survive. The winner would obtain the key from the box and free themselves from the chains, while the loser would be dragged into the icy waters. Since the duel was between the Nameless Pharaoh and Janouchi, Malik was happy to see either side win or lose. If Janouchi wins, then the Nameless Pharaoh will die. And if the Nameless Pharaoh wins, his close friend Jinouchi will die, and he killed him with his own hands. If Malik could witness that scene, he would be even happier. Chapter 191 Hostage Group Delivers to Your Door. Honestly, while Malik had always wanted to kill the nameless pharaoh, he preferred to see him win in the battle between them and Jinouchi. That way, he'd see the nameless pharaoh's agony at having killed his best friend. Furthermore, this was revenge for the tomb guarding clan, and it would have been somewhat inadequate if he hadn't personally dealt with the nameless pharaoh. What if the nameless pharaoh refused to duel with Jinouchi? After all, in this situation, anyone with a discerning eye could see his calculations. Malik had naturally anticipated this, and to keep the nameless pharaoh obedient, he had dispatched several of his men to capture hostages. Unfortunately, the hostage, Game Chicken Sauce, was nowhere to be found, so Malik had to settle for capturing backup hostages, Mazuki Kyoko and Keiba Kihei. Above Jinouchi's battle, a suspended container held Mazuki Kyoko, tied to a chair. Mazuki Kyoko and Jinouchi Katsuya are both close friends of the nameless pharaoh. However, considering that the nameless pharaoh might care more about his homies than his girlfriends, Malik has sent his men to capture Honda and the others. If one girl isn't enough, then he'll make up for it with numbers. He must ensure the nameless pharaoh will fall for his trick. The stage is set, and now it's time for the final protagonist to take the stage. With the roar of a sports car engine, Malik, through Jinouchi's body, gazed at the approaching car, his lips curling slightly. He hadn't initially assumed it was President Keiba's car, and that those who emerged were President Keiba and the nameless pharaoh, who had arrived on the news of Mazuki Kyoko and Keiba Kihei's abductions. However, upon seeing the men exit the car, Malik, who was secretly controlling everything from afar with the Millennium Scepter, nearly dropped the artifact in surprise. This isn't right. Why weren't the first people to arrive here, President Keiba and the nameless pharaoh, but the hostage group? Malik naturally recognized the people who got out of the car. Although he couldn't name these extras, he knew that they were all the followers of the nameless pharaoh. Originally, these extras and followers were all hostages that he planned to use to make the nameless pharaoh obey him, but how the hell did they end up being beaten into the base camp? Wasn't it said that except for Jinouchi, the others around the nameless pharaoh were third-rate characters who didn't even know how to duel? Now, the men he sent out to capture the hostages not only failed to capture them, but were killed by the hostages and even found here. Malik, with an angry face, used the Millennium Scepter to directly control the small timer at the dock stronghold and questioned the person in charge here about what was going on. Their duelist organization is an elite organization formed specifically to avenge the nameless pharaoh. With state-of-the-art card cloning technology, their decks are top-notch. But now, such an elite group has been kidnapped by a few small-time ne'er-do-wells who don't even know how to duel, and they've been killed. How can Malik face the nameless pharaoh the next time he encounters him? Master Malik, please calm down. I just heard from my men that there was an incident during the kidnapping. Not all of the nameless pharaoh's friends are minor characters. The woman with wavy blonde hair, known as Peacock Dance, is also a top-tier duelist. She was a semifinalist in the Duel Kingdom and even nearly defeated the nameless pharaoh in the semifinals. Her strength is likely to be on par with Jinouchi Katsuya. The men I sent were also defeated by her. Looking at the 1,000-year eye mark that appeared on the forehead of his henchman, the little leader of duelists also showed a look of panic on his face at this moment, and hurriedly said that the reason why their mission failed was because of the Peacock Dance's sudden interference. As for whether the Peacock Dance was really that awesome, to be honest, he himself hadn't investigated. But at this juncture, he had to blow up the other party with all his might. After all, the stronger the opponent's strength, the more it would appear that they were not incompetent, but that the opponent was too powerful, and the possibility of their survival would be higher. Oh, that woman named Peacock Dance, did she really almost defeat the nameless pharaoh? Although Peacock Dance was indeed curvaceous and good-looking, Malik, a little black boy who was in his rebellious period, had no sexual interest in Peacock Dance, but when it came to the fact that the other party almost defeated the nameless pharaoh, he became excited. It's absolutely true, Lord Malik, and we also heard that this Peacock Dance has a very good relationship with the nameless pharaoh. Originally, after being defeated by the enemy, my subordinates would rather die than reveal this when facing their torture. But then I changed my mind and thought, if we lead them here, and then you can defeat them first in the city, and then when we face the nameless pharaoh, won't we have more bargaining chips in our hands? The leader of Garus said while lowering his head, expressing his absolute loyalty. and constantly helping Malik with advice. In the end, it was until Malik nodded with satisfaction and said, "You have done a good job in this matter. This woman named Peacock Dance will be slowly dealt with by me." The little leader of Gulas breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing the 1,000-year eye mark on his subordinate's forehead disappear, a look of pride appeared on the face of the little leader of Gulas. He couldn't help but give himself a thumbs up for his recent operation. How could he not know what kind of character his little brother has? He would rather die than surrender, and retreat to advance. It was clearly because he was afraid of death that he exposed their position. But after this wave of rhetoric, his original fear of death turned into inviting the enemy into a trap. His subordinate's incompetence turned into his own good leadership. If this wave of operations could be scored, he would give himself 101 points, and the extra point was given to Lord Malik's far-sightedness. To be honest, if it were Lord Lishad they just faced, they would probably all be punished by now. Although Lord Malik was more powerful and more ruthless, he was still just a young child. Elsewhere, Peacock Dance had just added a few new cards from the pack to her deck when she discovered she was surrounded by lackeys of the Gulas organization. Soon, one of the lackeys, bearing the Millennium Eye mark on his forehead, emerged from the crowd. He examined Peacock Dance and said, "Are you Peacock Dance?" Seeing the dull eyes and puppet-like movements of the extra before her, Peacock Dance's face showed a hint of unease. Although she had heard from Honda and the others before her that the Gulas boss was a figure like Pegasus, capable of wielding dark powers, it was only after their direct encounter that Peacock Dance finally believed that someone in this world could truly possess such supernatural powers. After all, the person before them was clearly being controlled by someone else. However, after a brief moment of panic, Peacock Dance calmed down. It was just a supernatural ability. She, Peacock Dance, now possessed it too. Chapter 192. Are today's female duelists so courageous? Whether it was a dual spirit or a so-called system, Kong Ku wouldn't have believed it before, but now it was right before her. "I'm Kong Ku, and you're the mastermind behind the Gulas organization," as Honda and the others said. Looking at the Gulas minion being controlled by Malik, Kong Ku quickly calmed down and raised her dual disc, watching him with a warlike attitude. Seeing Kong Ku show no fear and even dare to challenge him, Malik was stunned for a moment, then a look of interest crossed his face. "Interesting. As expected of a woman who once nearly defeated the Nameless Pharaoh, you've shown such audacity in the face of a wielder of our Millennium artifact. Unfortunately, my enemy is the Nameless Pharaoh. A figure like you is unworthy of fighting me. You've come to rescue your companions, haven't you? If so, defeat the best opponent I've prepared for you," Malik said, stepping aside his puppet body. Behind him stood Janouchi, his eyes glazed over, seemingly lost in the power of the Millennium Scepter. "Brother, I'm Shizuka." "Janouchi, pull yourself together, you bastard," Shizuka and Honda shouted at Janouchi, whose eyes were glazed over, his body hollowed out. Unfortunately, the power of the Millennium artifact was beyond the reach of ordinary humans. While not completely controlled, Janouchi was now under Malik's dictates, reduced to a puppet, obeying his commands. "Don't waste your time. No matter how loud you shout, Janouchi can't hear you right now. And you, Kogmeo, if you lose this duel, you'll become a tool at my mercy," just like Janouchi. Even though the duel hadn't even begun, Malik already felt certain victory. He could even picture the Nameless Pharaoh, facing a crushing defeat against Janouchi and Kogmeo, outnumbered. Since this was a death duel with lives on the line, Malik worried Kogmeo might refuse to fight. So, with a snap of his fingers, the suspended container instantly opened, revealing the bound, 10,000-year hostage, Mazuki Kyoko. "You have no right to refuse this duel. If you don't agree to duel with Janouchi, then, I accept this duel." Before Malik could finish his words, Kogmeo had already unfurled her own dual disc and moved across from Janouchi, even taking the initiative to secure her ankles with the chains on the ground. Her actions also confused Malik, who had originally planned to use Masaki Anko as a hostage to threaten him and explain the rules of the death game. This wasn't right. Wasn't Janouchi a friend of Peacock Dance? This was a duel to the death, with one choice between the two. According to normal rules, shouldn't the opponent refuse until the hostage threat is used, and then finally, painfully, they accept? Peacock Dance, you probably haven't understood the rules of the death game I'm talking about. The loser dies, right? A dark game where your life is at stake? I've seen your Gulas tactics before, so I'm saying I know what I mean. Let's not waste time and start the duel. Peacock Dance's words really threw Malik off. He even felt that being the villain was too damn difficult. He was clearly the one in control, so why was he being led around by the other side? And this female duelist named Peacock Dance was so bold. Was she sure she could win? No, even if she did, wasn't the dead Jinauchi her friend? Why did Malik feel like she was even more eager to duel than he was? Malik's feeling was correct. For Konkwu was truly eager to duel with Jinauchi. Seiya had already told her that Muto Yuji was on his way. If Yuji arrived, her chance to play might be forfeited. And if Jinauchi were defeated by Yuji, her mission would have failed, and her cheat code would be unbound. As for whether Jinauchi's life would be in danger if she won the duel, Seiya had already assured her that it would be. That was why Konkwu was so eager. Since you're seeking death, then I'll grant you your wish. Although Malik couldn't read Konkwu's thoughts, she, as a female duelist, had shown such courage. If Malik refused again, wouldn't he be outmatched? Duel. X2. At the outset of the duel, Peacock Dance had a chance to seize initiative, but Seiya suddenly appeared and stopped her. I have initiative. My turn, draw a card, I attack and summon Dragon Warrior from my hand. Dragon Warrior, 4-star mortal bone monster, attack. 1500, defense. 1200. The rules of Duel City have been refined since the days of Duel Kingdom, but there are still some loopholes. For example, the first move in a duel was originally determined by a coin flip, but now whoever strikes first wins. Seeing that Seiya had already summoned a monster to the castle first, Peacock Dance turned to Seiya, who was holding her arm, with a puzzled look on her face. She didn't understand why he had stopped her, otherwise, she would have taken the initiative. Why are you fighting for initiative? Don't you know that in poker, the first mover loses half the battle? Hearing Seiya's baseless rules, Peacock Dance was incredulous. Aren't true duels all about strength? Why would she believe in such metaphysics? However, since her opponent had already taken initiative, Peacock Dance could only wait for the opponent to finish his moves. Woo, in the past, I might have relied on luck to defeat you, but I'm different now. I'm stronger than anyone. In this duel, I'll prove it. In addition to summoning a monster, I'll also cover a card. End of turn. Looking at Jinauchi, who had gained self-awareness but clearly no longer had the same personality, Peacock Dance said no more and slowly reached for her deck. My turn, draw a card, I summon Condor Lady Cyber Tights in attack position, 4-star monster, 1800 ATK, 1300 def. This card can be used as Condor Lady on the field and in the graveyard. Also, activate the Equip Magic Rose Whip from my hand to increase Condor Lady Cyber Tights' attack power by another 300 points. Chapter 193, Domestic Violence Scene, Peacock Dance vs Jinauchi. Equipped with a Rose Whip, the Condor Girl's Cyber Tights' attack power increased from 1800 to 2100, far surpassing Jinauchi's Dragon Warrior. Fight. Next, I'm going to use the Condor Girl Cyber Tights to attack the Dragon Warrior. With a small whip in hand, the Condor Girl glanced at the Dragon Warrior before her and, without hesitation, lashed out. However, just as the Condor Girl's whip was about to touch the Dragon Warrior, Jinauchi opened his own face card. Activate Trap Card, Chain Dart. With the opening of the Trap Card, a 3-pronged chain appeared in the Dragon Warrior's hand. With a graceful throw, the Condor Girl, still brandishing the whip, was instantly restrained. Her already impressive figure, now confined by the chains, became even more striking. Chain Dart, a trap card, has 2 effects, one of which can be activated. The first increases the attack of one of your monsters by 500 points. The other changes the attacking monster to defense. Jinauchi was undoubtedly using the second effect, so the Condor Lady, now in defense equipment, also saw her attack power drop from 2100 to 1300. As Jinauchi activated the trap card, Wang Yang and President Kaba finally arrived. Upon learning from Honda and the others that Peacock Dance and Jinauchi were engaged in a death duel, he angrily called Malik despicable. Malik, however, simply ignored Yuji's insults. It's more like the angrier Yuji Muto got, the happier Malik felt. To further exacerbate the pain in the nameless pharaoh's face, Malik used the power of the Millennium Scepter to entertain Jinauchi and Peacock Dance. Whenever a monster is summoned, a soul chain appears between the monster and Peacock Dance. If a monster is destroyed or its health is reduced, they both feel the pain of their souls. Simply put, this is the so-called dark game. Those with weak willpower and mental strength might collapse before they even accept the duel. This kind of dark duel can only be initiated by the wielder of a Millennium artifact, and as long as it complies with the rules, not even the nameless pharaoh, the dark game, can interfere or forcibly abort it. Peacock Dance soon experienced the horror of the dark game and tasted the true pain of the soul. On my turn, summon Baby Dragon in attack position, then use Dragon Warrior to attack Eagle Girl, Cyber Tights, with her body bound and in defensive mode. Eagle Girl, with 1,300 defense points, was no match for the Dragon Warrior's 1,500 attack points, and was instantly chopped to pieces. As the Condor Girl wailed and shattered, the soul chains attached to her shattered, and Peacock Dance suddenly felt a piercing pain in her soul. However, seeing Peacock Dance groaning in pain, Janouchi, now controlled by Malik, remained unfazed. Instead, he excitedly declared, "My attack isn't over yet. Next, I'm going to use Baby Dragon to directly attack you." Baby Dragon, a 3-star monster with 1,200 attack and 800 defense, a fireball erupted from the yellow dragon's mouth and blasted towards Peacock Dance. Dark Yuji and the others watching from afar couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Even with the defeat of Condor Girl in defense mode, the pain inflicted on her soul was so intense that, for Dark Yuji, such a direct attack was almost indistinguishable from real damage. Even the usually independent and self-reliant Peacock Dance couldn't help but show a hint of fear at the oncoming fireball. Carry. Just as the fireball was about to strike her, a furry spherical creature suddenly appeared in front of her, taking the mental damage for her. The smoke cleared, and the protected Peacock Dancer was slightly startled but otherwise unharmed. Seiya, who had also blocked the fireball, similarly patted his fur with his small green paws. The relief that shone through Carislin's large eyes made Peacock Dancer breathe a sigh of relief. Just kidding, a mere mental injury? Seiya truly didn't take it seriously. Though he looked like a small ball, he was no ordinary ball. With the combined powers of multiple worlds, his willpower and mental strength were terrifyingly high. That level of mental trauma was barely even a tickle for him. Is that a dual spirit? Is Mai actually a dual spirit-approved duelist? Others couldn't see Seiya, the dual spirit, but Yami Yuji saw him. And not only Yami Yuji saw him. Malik, the wielder of the Millennium artifact, who was hiding behind the scenes, also saw Seiya. He had previously wondered how a mere ordinary duelist could have the confidence to challenge him head-on. It turned out she was a dual spirit-approved being. Seiya's health points were 4,000 to 2,800. Seiya helped Peacock Dance absorb the mental damage from Baby Dragon's direct attack, but the damage still counted. HMPH, you're lucky. I'll cover one more card, and the turn ends. Janouchi, not seeing the satisfied look on Peacock Dance's face after she took the direct attack, cursed and ended his turn. Hearing Janouchi's words and seeing Seiya's body stained from the damage, Peacock Dance instantly flew into rage. Before, she'd felt bad for dueling Janouchi over a mission, but now she was truly furious. Being controlled was a big deal. Just because her memory was tampered with, she could do whatever she wanted? After all, Seiya had promised Janouchi he wouldn't die even if he lost, so now, with her Peacock Dance, she was about to teach him a lesson. During my turn, I activate the continuous spell card Hysterical Contract from my hand. As the effect of this card, select one Mangela Mirror, Gorgeous Clone from your deck or graveyard, and add it to your hand. During the turn this card is sent from your hands or field to the graveyard. Add up to 3 Condor cards from your deck to your hand. Using the effect of this continuous spell, I add Gorgeous Kaleidoscope to my hand. Next, I normal summon Condor Queen to the field in attack position. Activate this continuous spell to special summon 2 Condor Queens from your hands or deck, as long as you have Condor Queen on the field. So I'm going to summon Condor Lady 1 and Condor Lady 2. Not yet finished, I activate the spell card, Sand Tornado, discard a card from hand, and destroy one of my opponent's face-up cards. As a Condor Lady card is sent to the graveyard, Janouchi's face-up card is also destroyed. Condor Lady 1's 300-point attack boost to the 3 Condor Ladies on the Peacock Dance field is now Condor Queen 1900 to 2200, Condor Lady 1 1300 to 1600, and Condor Lady 2 1300 to 1600. Chapter 194 Your health value is like a candle in the wind. Looking at the cards in her hand, she regretted not having drawn Condor, Chestnut Ball, which would have allowed her to complete the Condor Kill achievement. Next, I'll use Condor Queen to attack the Dragon Warrior, Condor Girl 1 to attack Baby Dragon, and finally, Condor 2 to attack directly. With Peacock Dance's command, the three Condor Girls leaped out and, with one claw each, easily ripped apart Jinauchi's monsters. Condor Queen's attack. 2,200, Dragon Warrior's attack. 1,500, Jinauchi's health. 4,000 to 3,300, Condor Girl 1's attack. 1,600, Baby Dragon's attack. 1,200, Jinauchi's health. 3,300 to 2,900. Finally, under the direct attack of Condor Girl 2's 1,600 attack, Jinauchi's health plummeted to 1,300. After suffering 3 consecutive blows to his health, even someone as mentally strong as Jinauchi couldn't help but groan in pain, even falling to his knees. The card he had originally covered on the field was a trap card, Devil's Dice, which reduces the opponent's attack power by multiples based on the number of points rolled. Unexpectedly, it was seen through and destroyed by Peacock Dance. I'll cover one last card, and the turn ends. Seiya, standing by, was speechless at the thought of being able to cover cards even after the battle ended. However, after all, this was a DM's era, where spell cards could be activated during the opponent's turn, so Seiya kept quiet. Damn it. I didn't expect Peacock Dance to be so strong. Jinauchi, quickly defeat this woman. Use the card I gave you. Your real mission is to defeat the nameless pharaoh, not to fall to such a woman. Seeing Jinauchi go from a huge advantage to complete disadvantage in just one turn, Malik couldn't help but feel anxious. You're kidding. He used the Millennium Artifact to make Jinauchi lose himself, not to defeat the so-called Peacock Dance, but to deal with the nameless pharaoh. If Jinauchi lost the duel here, how could he possibly watch the rest of the show? Jinauchi and Yuji Muto were close friends, while Peacock Dance was just a casual acquaintance. If Jinauchi died first, how could he achieve his revenge against the nameless pharaoh? HMPH, how could I fall here so easily? My true enemy is Yuji Muto. At the Millennium Artifact's cue, Jinauchi, having just suffered a severe blow, stood up again and reached for his deck. My turn, draw a card, activate the spell card Tornado from your hand. With this card, I destroy the card you just covered, accompanied by a whirlwind sweeping in. The trap card that Peacock Dance had just covered was shattered. It was a trap card that could quickly pull monsters from the deck after the monster was destroyed. After seeing the destroyed trap card, Jinauchi smiled lightly, and then inserted a magic card in his hand into the card slot. Then I'm going to activate another magic card Lightning. According to the effect of this card, all the monsters on your field will be destroyed, but when seeing the card with the lightning pattern being played by Jinauchi, Seiya behind Peacock Dance couldn't help but exclaimed. After blowing up the backfield, he blows up the front field. Can a banned card like Lightning be used casually? Before, Seiya thought that if he gave Peacock Dance too many cards that were beyond this era, she would be bullied the whole time, and he would not even have the chance to come out and make suggestions. But now it seems that he had obviously considered too much before. Yu-Gi-Oh! DM is simply in the era of banned cards. It's not over yet. I also want to activate the magic card Fireball from my hand to directly deal 500 points of life damage to the opponent. A huge fireball fell from the sky and hit Peacock Dance directly. Originally, Seiya wanted to help the opponent resist, but Peacock Dance pulled Seiya's body away in a stubborn manner. This is her battle. Although Seiya is her dual elf, she can't always hide behind Seiya and accept Seiya's protection. The mental trauma of the Dark Duel is also harmful to the dual elves, and as the one chosen by Seiya, Peacock Dance must show some corresponding backbone. Boom. As flames exploded, Peacock Dancer, struck directly by the fireball, was sent flying backwards, but the chains on her ankles quickly pulled her back. It's not over yet. I'll summon the Flame Swordsman for a final direct attack. First struck by the fireball, then engulfed in flames, Peacock Dancer screamed in agony as her health plummeted from 2,800 to 2,300 to 500. The combined 2,300 points of direct damage instantly robbed Peacock Dancer, a complete stranger to dark combat, of consciousness, leaving her powerless to even stand. Dark duels are all about enduring pain. Indirect damage, protected by a monster, would be fine, but 2 consecutive rounds of direct damage is practically the same as being burned directly by flames. That bastard Malik. The rules of Duel City should clearly prohibit the use of spell and trap cards that deal direct damage. President Cabra was also very angry when he saw the 3 consecutive magic cards that first disintegrated the magic trap zone, then disintegrated the monster zone, and finally reduced the life value. There was no other reason, because the fireball that Junauchi had just used was strictly prohibited by the rules. 500 points of life value damage may not seem like a lot, but if the deck plays this kind of card, how can they unlock the health lock? As everyone knows, there is almost a rule for the characters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, except for the villains, that is, they will not play cards until they are low on health. As long as the life value of the protagonist is locked, the protagonist will instantly be buffed with various buffs, either a magic draw or printing cards on the spot. It is inevitable that Fireball will become a ban card, because it will become an obstacle for them to cheat. Imagine that Wang Yang has already completed the state of locking the blood bar. At this moment, he just wants to show off, and you play a Fireball in return. What will the opponent's expression be? HMPH, President Kaba, this is my stage now, so I'm the one who calls the shots. I'll be frank with you all. Junauchi's deck not only has Fireball, but 3 of them. Peacock Dancer's life points are already dwindling. If Junauchi draws another Fireball, she's doomed. Malik ignored President Kaba's wrath, even believing Junauchi's victory was assured. He still had Magic Crystal Digging in his hand, which discarded 2 cards and added a spell card from the graveyard. However, with only 2 cards in hand, he couldn't activate it. However, next turn, when he drew a card, Fireball would return to Junauchi's hand. No matter how powerful Peacock Dancer's monster was, activating Fireball again would wipe out the opponent's remaining 500 life points. Chapter 195, the original owner is in charge, and Seiya is online to play for him. Nameless Pharaoh, after we defeat Peacock Dance, Junauchi's next opponent will be you. Clean your neck and wait. Malik, already convinced Junauchi would win, even manipulated his puppet to shout at Yami Yuji. Peacock Dance is a true duelist. I'm sure she won't lose so easily. What a joke. Forget winning. That woman probably doesn't even have the strength to stand up again. And even if she does, what good will it do? I'm telling you, Junauchi will use Fireball again in the next round. So, no matter what monsters that woman summons, it's useless. This turn is her last. As if displeased with Yami Yuji's seemingly self-assured expression, Malik nonchalantly revealed Junauchi's hand. Malik saw that the Nameless Pharaoh was simply being tough. Junauchi currently had 1,300 horsepower and the Flame Swordsman with 1,800 ATK on the field. Meanwhile, Peacock Dance now had nothing in front of her, and only one continuous magic card, Hysterical Contract, in her backfield. Could she possibly pull off a comeback? This is indeed my last turn. But it's not Junauchi who will win the duel, it's me. Malik stared in disbelief as Peacock Dance, who had previously appeared on the verge of death, suddenly stood up as if nothing had happened, her expression completely different. Watching Peacock Dance now, both Yami Yuji and Malik wondered if she had a second personality. There was nothing they could do, because the current Peacock Dance gave them the impression that while her appearance remained the same, her demeanor and expression had changed drastically. Their misconception was understandable, as the current Peacock Dance was indeed different from the previous one. More accurately, due to the trauma she had just suffered, Peacock Dance was no longer able to continue the duel, and had therefore entered a custodial state. As for who was entrusted with the task, it went without saying, it was Seiya, the spirit behind Peacock Dance, his cheat, and his dual spirit. Compared to Seiya's bodies in other worlds, this one is quite weak, but it's still a normal human. And that heaviness on my chest, I think Peacock Dance's shoulders must be quite sore. And we were supposed to fight in the dark duel, and the monster attacks were real. Why hasn't this suit been burned at all after all these fire attacks? It's the same brand as the green Fat Man's shorts from Marvel. Peacock Dance's demeanor changed drastically. Something must have happened to her body that they were unaware of. Although he didn't know what had happened to the other party, Malik didn't care at all for the moment. His only target was the Nameless Pharaoh, and he didn't believe Peacock Dance could pull off a comeback in this situation. There's no point in struggling any longer. Hurry up and take your final turn. I want to see how you win this duel. Malik wasn't the only one who doubted it. Even Yami Yuji and President Kaba, who were watching from the sidelines, were skeptical that Peacock Dance could pull off a comeback in the next round. Surviving the next round's fireball kill was already considered lucky. With the front and back courts practically empty, pulling off a comeback in the next round in this situation was a gamble. Not even Peacock Dance, let alone them. Life points like a candle in the wind? You dare to ban a duel like that? That's called a health lock, Don't you understand? A health lock, plus a candle in the wind kill, plus the final round, with all those buffs stacked up. Who else would die? My turn, draw a card. As Seiya's hand elegantly pulled a card from his deck, he could feel the centrifugal force exerted on his chest as his body swayed. Just a glance at the card he had just drawn made the corners of his mouth curl slightly. As expected, Peacock Dance is a character after all, so the buff drawn by Bloodlock will also be effective on her. I activate the quick play spell Unusual Food from my hand. Using this card's effect, I can restore 1000 times my life points by destroying spell or trap cards on the field. The card I'm going to destroy is Hysterical Contract. As Hysterical Contract was destroyed, Seiya's life points increased from 500 to 1500. Tisk, barely hanging on to life with the continuous spell cards on the field, Peacock Dance, now controlled by Seiya, smiled confidently at Janouchi's taunts. You think I'm destroying Hysterical Contract just to restore life points? Activate the second effect of Hysterical Contract. When this card is sent from your hands or field to the graveyard, add up to 3 Condor from your deck to your hand. Using this effect, I add 3 Condor monsters from my deck to my hand. Seeing what Seiya did, Dark Yuji, who was watching the game, couldn't help but say, "Beautiful." Not only did he restore his health, but he also added the key ace monster to his hand. In this way, Peacock Dance can summon monsters to fight the Flame Swordsman. However, just as Dark Yuji finished speaking, Seiya drew another card from his hand and inserted it into the card slot. Activate the magic card Hand Erase. According to the effect of this card, both sides send their hand cards to the graveyard and draw the same number of cards, because he didn't play many cards, and the previous special moves were all summoned directly from the deck. Seiya's hand, plus the 3 Condors that had just been added to his hand, was a total of 8 cards, while Janouchi only had 2. However, Seiya's actions made Dark Yuji and President Kaba a little confused. Purposely adding key cards to your hand and then sending them to the graveyard? Did you intentionally increase your hand size to increase your chances of drawing a key card because you didn't draw one? Activate the spell card Angel's Gift, draw 3 more cards from your deck, and then discard 2 of them to the graveyard. After completing these operations, Seiya's hand had reached 9 cards, and looking at the cards in his hand, Seiya expressed a slight regret. Unfortunately, the cards he had given Peacock Dance were still too few. He didn't have the core cards from the Condor deck yet, but it was enough to deal with this situation. I will summon Condor Queen from my hand, and then activate another card in my hand, Gorgeous Kaleidoscope, to special summon Condor Girl 1 and Condor Girl 3 from my deck. Since there are already 2 or more Condor Girls on the field, I will special summon Condor, Kirito from my hand. With the appearance of Rays of Light, 4 monsters suddenly appeared in the previously empty field. Everyone present was surprised, but Seiya's operation was not over yet. Activate the continuous spell cards Water Chorus and Unity of the Clan. Chapter 196, 1-star monster with attack power exceeding that of God card. The effect of Water Chorus is that while this card is on the field, all monsters with the same name on the field gain 500 ATK and def. The effect of Unity of the Clans is that if while monsters in your graveyard have the same original type, all monsters of that type on your field gain 800 ATK. The Condor monsters I currently control all have special effects that allow them to be used as Condor Lady, so they gain the effect of Water Chorus. Similarly, since the monsters in my graveyard and on the field are all bird type, the bonus from Unity of the Clans applies. Then, I activate the special effect of Condor Lady number 1, while this card is on the field, wind monsters gain an additional 300 ATK, Water Chorus gains 500 ATK, Unity of the Clans gains 800 ATK, and Unity of the Clans adds 300 ATK to the total, for a total of 1600 ATK. So, the attack power of the Condor Girl Seiya currently has on the field is as follows: Condor Queen, 1900 to 3500, Condor Girl 1, 1300 to 2900, Condor Girl 3, 1300 to 2900. Seeing the Condor Girls on the Peacock Dance field's attack power skyrocket to 3500 and 2900 respectively thanks to the special effects of spell cards and monsters, everyone, from Yami Yuji to Malik and the others, was stunned. However, even then, Seiya didn't stop. Instead, he opened his palm and said, "It's not over yet." Activate the other special effect of Condor, Kirito. As long as this card is on the field, It increases the attack power by 300 times the number of Condor girls on the field and in the graveyard. It was as Seiya announced the special ability of Condor, Kirito, that Yami Yuji and President Kaba, watching from afar, suddenly realized something. Seeing his companion's bewildered face, Yami Yuji took the initiative to speak. According to the rules of the duel game, a maximum of 5 monsters can be placed in the monster zone. However, the monster named Condor Chestnut Ball can increase its combat power by the number of condors, so Peacock Dance will send as many monsters of this type to the graveyard as possible to maximize the attack power of that monster. Not only that, her act of adding condor monsters to her hand and then sending them to the graveyard also triggered the effect of unity of the clan. And by increasing the number of cards in her hand and using hand card elimination to increase the probability of drawing an ace, it's really a terrifying chain reaction. I didn't expect that Peacock Dance to be such a strong duelist. The graveyard that ordinary duelists would ignore is now being utilized by her. As soon as Yami Yuji finished speaking, President Kaba on the side began to add, and at this moment his fists were clenched tightly. He did not expect that Peacock Dance would be such a strong enemy. The original attack power of Condor Chestnut Ball was only 300, but because of the special effects of Water Chorus, Unity of the Clan and Condor Girl number 1, the attack power will rise to 1900. Then there are his own special effects. Including himself, I have 4 Condor monsters on the field. Add to that the 3 that you destroyed with lightning at the beginning, and the 4 I sent to the graveyard. 3 hand cards were wiped out, and 1 was a magic card at the beginning. That's the total of 11 Condor monsters. This means that the attack power of Condor Chestnut Ball, which has already increased to 1900, will increase again by 11 times 300. For a total of 3,300 attack power. Condor, Kirito's attack power. 1900 to 5200. When everyone saw a large group of Condor girls appearing behind Condor, Kirito, and the wings behind it fully spread out, and turned into rainbow color and soared into the sky, they were all stunned. Impossible. A 1-star small monster, his attack power actually surpassed Kami, God card. 5,200 attack power was already quite explosive in the Yu-Gi-Oh! DM era. After all, as a God card, Obelisk Giant God Soldier has an attack power of only 4,000. Even the 2 high-powered aces that appeared in the DM era, 5 Emperor Dragons and Ultimate Dragon Knight, only have an attack power of 5,000 points. Nothing is impossible, I said it long ago. This is my last turn. Condor, Kirito attacks the Flame Swordsman, Condor Feather Annihilation Slash. With Seiya's command, Condor Tsubame soared high into the sky, flapping its rainbow wings. As its wings flapped, the rainbow light transformed into an X-shaped slash, instantly shattering the Flame Swordsman, whose attack power was only 1,800. Janouchi's health points were 1,300. Janouchi, seeing Janouchi swept away by the strong wind, Yami Yuji and the others exclaimed in surprise. Peacock Dance's victory meant that Janouchi, with his health at 0, would be dragged directly into the sea by the chains attached to his feet. However, what everyone presented and expect was that after destroying the Flame Swordsman and ending the duel, Condor Tsubame didn't disappear. Instead, at Seiya's signal, it flapped its wings and flew to Janouchi's location. Just as the chains were about to drag the unconscious Janouchi into the sea, a wing slash cleaved them. By the time Yami Yuji and the others arrived, Janouchi had already collapsed unconscious. Condor, Kirito, having completed its mission, also slowly vanished into thin air. So I can say I defeated Janouchi. After the duel concluded, Seiya's online proxy service had also ended. Mamoru, having recovered from her hosting, looked at Janouchi, who, though unconscious, was otherwise unharmed, with a wry smile on her face. While Seiya was online proxying, Mamoru's body was under his control, but Mamoru also possessed feelings and consciousness. In other words, Mamoru was the one who had experienced Seiya's previous battles the most. While playing the same cards, Seiya's approach gave Mamoru a refreshing feeling. She hadn't even imagined a duel this way. Mamoru, are you okay? After confirming that Janouchi was fine and that Mamoru's consciousness had returned after defeating him, Yami Yuji and the others came over to check on Mamoru. Glancing at the mission completed pop-up window before her, Konkwu breathed a sigh of relief, her mood brightening even more. It seemed that, while she hadn't been in control of the second half of the duel, she had still used her body, so the so-called system had still deemed her mission accomplished. After witnessing Seiya's power in the so-called dark duel, Kong Wu was even more reluctant to give up this power. Whether it was the holder of the Millennium Divine Artifact or the so-called God card, without Seiya's help, she would have no chance of defeating these monsters. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Shengaya, don't even think about seducing this system. Thank you so much this time. I didn't expect you to become so much stronger after Dual Kingdom. Jinouchi, having regained his composure, bowed 90 degrees to apologize to Madoka. Then, with unwavering straightness, he declared that his previous loss was simply because he wasn't the same person. He would challenge Madoka again in the Duel City Finals. Yami Yuji, after similarly expressing his gratitude to Madoka, generously acknowledged that Madoka was now much stronger than before, but he wouldn't admit defeat if they met again. You're so frivolous. Yuji, whether it's you, Malik, or Madoka, who just displayed incredible strength, all of you, clean your necks and wait for this. The only one who will collect all 3 God cards and claim the final victory will be me. Seto Kaiba, President Kaiba, his usual Chunibaku self, let out a high-pitched laugh before finally departing in a helicopter with his younger brother, Kihiro Kaiba. Peacock Dance glanced at the 2 puzzle cards in her hand, then at the new card she'd just received from the quest reward deck. She couldn't wait to find new prey to test her skills. Seiya's previous battle had been a great inspiration for Peacock Dance, and she realized that her previous combat skills were still too immature. Her so-called perfume tactics might have been effective against lesser-tier duelists, but they were far from enough against formidable foes like Yuji Muto and Malik. Peacock Dance also discovered that Condor Chestnut Ball might be more than just a duel spirit. The cheat code she'd been granted wasn't a system, but Condor Chestnut Ball, no, it was Seiya himself. The so-called card system was merely one of Seiya's abilities. He could not only create cards for her, but also teach her advanced combat techniques. Watching Peacock Dance drive off in the sports car, Jinouchi, now fully revived, couldn't help but look frustrated. I didn't expect Mai to be this strong now. If I keep dragging my feet, I'm sure I'll be crushed again the next time I meet her. It's fair to say Jinouchi is truly the most courageous man in Yu-Gi-Oh! The others are either wielders of millennia-old artifacts or reincarnated pharaohs or priests, but Jinouchi, a mere mortal, managed to reach the semifinals of Duel City through sheer luck and sheer willpower. He repeatedly withstood the attacks of the Winged Dragon Phoenix in Dark Duel with immense willpower. If he hadn't been killed by the plot, Dark Yuji wouldn't have made it. Mai is truly a true duelist, and I can clearly sense she's different from when she was in Duel Kingdom. Yami Yuji had wanted to ask Peacock Dance about the dual Pokémons, but remembering everyone has their own secrets, and their relationship with Peacock Dance wasn't close enough to be completely open, he ultimately held back. Boom. In one of the Gruss organization's bases, Malik slammed his fist into the wall in anger. Damn Peacock Dance. It's all because of that guy's meddling that the nameless pharaoh escaped. And what about that Condor Chestnut Ball? How come we and Gruss have all the card data in the world, yet we've never heard of such a card? It's just a 1-star, lowly monster, yet it boasts attack power rivaling that of a god card? How the hell does that even make sense? The carefully prepared plan failed to bury the nameless pharaoh, and it couldn't even achieve the purpose of disgusting him. At this moment, Malik was completely furious, and like an angry child. He began to vent his anger on the surroundings. As for Peacock Dance, who had already left on the other side, seeing that she was the only one who could see Condor Chestnut Ball beside her, she said in a coquettish and fawning manner, Seiya, I have just defeated many other duelists, why is there no reward at all? Although the task of defeating Jinouchi was completed, Peacock Dance did not have the luck of the previous card packs to obtain powerful cards from the Condor deck. There is no way. If you don't have enough luck, then you can only rely on quantity. After all, you can't be unlucky all the time. If you want to defeat Yuji and others who have the God card, it is not enough for Peacock Dance to rely on her current strength. Condor Heroes, Chestnut Ball has the potential to defeat the God card, but she can't guarantee she'll always be so lucky and draw the key cards that boost Condor Heroes, Chestnut Ball's attack power when she's matched against the God card. No, those opponents were too weak. They simply didn't meet the criteria for triggering the quest. While I'm both a dual spirit and a system spirit, and I can interfere with the system to a certain extent, I must also adhere to the principles of fairness. Look at those duelists you just defeated. They were small-time mortal bone monsters with 2,000 attack points, and they were used as your ultimate trump cards, utterly useless, even with magic trap. How can defeating duelists of that caliber actually help you improve your power? So, sister, don't treat me like some mindless system. Exploiting or bugging me is impossible. Hearing Seiya's righteous words, Peacock Dance rolled her eyes. Initially, she might have believed what Seiya said, but after her duel with Jinouchi, Madoka understood that Seiya was the so-called system itself, and his claim that it was fair and impartial to help her become stronger was pure nonsense. If the system were truly impartial, then she should have failed the mission when she fell during the battle with Jinouchi. Although she still had 500 health points, according to the rules of Duel City, any party unable to continue fighting due to physical reasons would also be considered defeated. Furthermore, although her body was used, it was Seiya who ultimately defeated Jinouchi. If the system truly had a so-called fair mechanism, her mission should not have been completed. Madoka was a very intelligent and shrewd woman, so after a little analysis, she realized that this system was completely controlled by Seiya alone. Don't say that. The so-called system is just cold and icy, but you, Seiya, clearly have emotions and a human side. Didn't you block my attacks in the dark duel with Jinouchi, and ultimately help me defeat him? Yujimuto and the others either have Millennium artifacts or God cards. If I don't get stronger soon, how can I defeat them? Seiya, we're all dependent on each other now, so you won't help me, Peacock Dance spoke, pulling down her collar to reveal the Great Rift Valley. Don't ask how she knew Seiya's weaknesses. It's because when she entered the trusteeship state and Seiya controlled her body, Peacock Dance could hear Seiya's inner thoughts. Like the heaviness of her chest, the soreness in her shoulders, and the fact that her clothes weren't burned, she heard it all. Chapter 198, Battle of the Duel City Quarterfinals. Ding! Congratulations on triggering the quest, know yourself and your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Quest requirements, defeat 10 or more duelists in Duel City. Quest reward: 5 random card packs. Quest failure penalty, duel as the Condor Girl. PS While the average adventurer in Duel City may be mediocre, true duelists grow stronger through constant dueling. Even ordinary duelists have their merits. Learn from their strengths, hone your dueling skills, and become even stronger. When the quest pop-up window appeared, a huge grin spread across Kwangwu's face. It was just as she'd imagined. This damn system was fair and just. Whoever said there were no loopholes? It was because they hadn't found the right way. Kwangwu, can I exploit your loopholes? Seiya, there are no loopholes in this system. Based on their previous interactions, Kwangwu had come to understand that Seiya, while a dual Pokemon, was surprisingly a pervert. However, Kwangwu didn't mind it. Instead, she was quite pleased. After all, the penalty for failing this quest was nothing to her. If Seiya truly had no desires, she wouldn't have tried to get close to him like this. What's so special about being perverted? A little bit of goodies would make her stronger. After all, Seiya was a dual Pokemon, a Kiwi in shape, and a completely different species. What could he possibly do to her? Having received the quest as she wished, Kwangwu resumed her monster-killing adventure. As one duelist after another fell under her miniskirt, Peacock Dance became the second contestant to successfully advance to the second round. The first person to advance was President Kaba, and when he saw that the second person who came to the gathering place with a puzzle card was Peacock Dance, he was obviously stunned. To be honest, although Peacock Dance had shown excellent fighting skills and strength in the previous battle with Jinouchi, but the strong enemies in President Kaba's mind are still Yuji and Malik, who hold the other 2 god cards. As for Peacock Dance and others, in the eyes of President Kaba, they are only slightly better than mediocre people like Jinouchi. Please let me check your puzzle card to see if you are qualified to advance. Although Kwangwu had indeed arrived at a meeting point, due to the speed of the process, the Seahorse Company staff still needed to check that she had collected 8 puzzle cards. Kwangwu did not refuse the request, but directly pulled a large stack of puzzle cards from her skirt pocket. The Seahorse Company bodyguard in charge of the inspection was stunned when he saw the stack of puzzle cards almost covering the entire table. Although he had not yet deliberately counted them, the sheer number was enough to indicate that Kwangwu's puzzle cards far exceeded the requirements for advancement. At first, the Seahorse Company bodyguards thought the puzzle cards were counterfeit, But they soon discovered that they were all equipped with Seahorse Company chips, which were genuine. Compared to their own president, Kong Wu arrived less than 10 minutes later. If her transportation was not inferior to that of the Seahorse president, she would even be the first to advance. However, the number of puzzle cards in her hand was far greater than that of their Seahorse president. HMPH, it seems you've defeated quite a few unknowns, but you have to understand, no matter how many unknowns you defeat, the number of puzzle cards doesn't determine anything. The fact that Peacock Dance far exceeded the qualifying requirement for puzzle cards was actually due to the quests issued by Seiya. After all, no matter how weak a contestant in Duel City, they all had at least one puzzle card. Not counting the extra duelists they defeated earlier, no fewer than 10 duelists had fallen to Peacock Dance in Seiya's quests alone. Peacock Dance was constantly killing monsters to complete the quests, only then heading to the meeting point for the promotions. However, President Kaba now viewed this behavior as a deliberate showmanship, believing that Peacock Dance was using the number of puzzle cards to demonstrate her superiority over others. Of course I know the number of puzzle cards, but it has nothing to do with the upcoming second round. These extra puzzle cards are simply a result of my accidentally winning too many. Could it be that Duel City has a rule that if you have too many puzzle cards, you won't be able to advance to the second round? Or is President Kaba simply upset because I've outnumbered him? President Kaba has always looked down on people, and Peacock Dance is aware of this. But she clearly did nothing, yet she was provoked and ridiculed again and again. Peacock Dance herself is not a good-tempered person. Faced with Peacock Dance's retort, Kaba was very annoyed. Without saying a word, he raised the duel disc in his hand, ready to teach the woman in front of him a lesson, to let her experience what it means to be a domineering president. At the same time, the other qualified people seemed to be getting better and better, and began to appear one after another. Just like the situation in the original plot, the top 8 who advanced to Duel City are still the same people. They are Kaba, Peacock Dance, Yuji Muto, Janouchi, Isis, Malik, Lishid, and Inmalian, who arrived at the last minute. The top 8 who advanced are the same as before, so naturally, the final draw result has not changed. After boarding the so-called airship, the live broadcast of the Duel City game was directly broadcast to all parts of the world. Given Kaba Corporation's immense financial resources, simply reaching the quarterfinals of Duel City is, unequivocally, a true achievement. After all, this event is broadcast worldwide, and in a world where card-playing reigns supreme, powerful duelists are far more popular than so-called idol stars. When Yami Yuji and Bakura's duel began, the appearance of the God card catapulted the duel monster frenzy to a new peak. After witnessing the powerful abilities of Osiris Sky Dragon, even though all the Duel City tournaments haven't concluded, many duelists are certain that the title of Duel King will be crowned among Yuji Muto, Seto Kaba, and Malik. The God cards are simply too powerful, rendering the other duel monsters utterly powerless in comparison. Besides the power of their God cards, Yuji and the other two are also incredibly strong duelists. Now, with the power of their God cards, other duelists are simply no match. In the first match, Yami Yuji defeated Yami Bakura, and in the second, Janouchi narrowly defeated Lishide, who used a trap deck. In the second match, Lishide even used a copy of Pterosaur, incurring the wrath of the gods and ultimately falling unconscious. And it was because of Malik's suicidal behavior that Yami Malik, a master of facial expressions rivaling Janouchi, officially debuted. Chapter 199. Can this be called a mission punishment? Janouchi, your luck is as good as ever. If you'd faced the gamers with a God card, you'd have been eliminated in the first round. But not only did you not encounter them, you even faced a fake Malik, who then self-destructed. Hearing his friend Honda's sneer, Janouchi, having just won the match, retorted with a look of displeasure, "How can you say luck determines victory? I relied entirely on my skills. Besides, in a card game, luck is part of skill." Okay, Janouchi's words left his companions speechless, though they had to admit that Janouchi was indeed quite capable when it came to super luck. Lishid was about to win, but because Malik's identity was suspected, he was forced to use a copy of the Pterosaur card. As a result, Lishid, who wasn't the user of the Millennium Artifact, nor a priest or the reincarnation of a pharaoh, was effectively defeated by Malik. Lishid's fall also caused Malik to be unable to suppress his dark side, leading to his own demise. Wait a minute, if the guy fighting Janouchi wasn't Malik, then who is the real Malik? As Lishid fell, everyone finally realized the truth and began to scan their surroundings. Meanwhile, Kaba's president, who had been folding his arms, fixed his gaze on the duelist named Nemu and said, Malik will definitely participate in this duel city to obtain the other god cards. The fake Malik has fallen, and the answer to who the real Malik is obvious. Indeed, of the duelists who advanced to the quarterfinals, with the exception of Isis of the Gravikeeper clan, Malik, and Lysid, all were familiar faces. Malik couldn't possibly be a woman. If Isis were Malik, he wouldn't have given Kaba the obelisk. Eliminating Isis and the fallen fake Malik, there's only one answer left. Ha, that's right, I'm the real Malik Aishur. It's all thanks to you all that I was able to emerge so easily. Especially you, Janouchi. If you hadn't defeated that pesky Lysid, I don't know how much longer I would have been suppressed. As a reward, when I meet you again, I'll make you experience the most desperate fear, and then I'll finish you off. Seeing the gazes fixed on him, Malik's expression instantly twisted, revealing an extremely frantic and defiant look. The third match is Peacock Dance vs Malik Aishur. Both parties, please enter. Regardless, Janouchi's duel with Lysid ultimately ended with Lysid unable to continue, giving Janouchi the victory. With a second duel concluded, Peacock Dance was next to face the inner character Malik. Woo, if possible, I hope you can give up this match. Malik feels even more dangerous now than before. He's the wielder of a 1,000-year-old artifact. If we lose this duel, it might mean more than just losing the match. Peacock Dance had helped them a lot before, especially with Janouchi's affairs, so when Yami Yuji saw Peacock Dance preparing to take the stage, he tried to persuade her. Yes, Woo, why don't you give up this duel? That Malik is a complete lunatic. Yami Yuji, along with the others and Janouchi, also began to persuade Peacock Dance. After all, they could sense that after Dark Malik's appearance, his temperament and personality were completely different. The former, though somewhat humane, Malik still played with human lives, but now, Dark Malik seemed even more sinister and deranged. If Peacock Dance dueled him, he would undoubtedly resort to the same dark duel tactics. Of course. It's not that they don't trust Conk Wu's abilities, but the god card's power is too strong, and a dark duel is a tremendous test of mental strength and willpower. I won't give up the duel. I will defeat him and prove that even the god card isn't invincible. Now that she's come this far, Conk Wu naturally won't give up. Especially since she's not fighting alone. What's there to fear? Ding. Congratulations. You've triggered the quest, Dueler Who Defeats God, quest, destroy the Sun God Winged Dragon in a duel against Malik Aishur and win. Quest reward, unlock all Condor decks. Quest penalty, sleep naked for one night, embracing your dual spirit. P.S. Due to the host's mental strength and willpower, they are currently unable to resist Winged Dragon's attacks. Therefore, the effects of the dark duel will be countered by the dual spirit. As a noble system host, even if defeated in a dark duel, the host is immune to special negative effects, such as having their soul devoured and sealed by darkness. Rest assured. When she saw the mission pop-up window and the long PS note following it, Peacock Dance instantly calmed down. Peacock Dance had experienced the horrific cost of defeat in a dark duel before. Seiya had previously simulated this by pulling her into his consciousness to train her mental strength and willpower. Peacock Dance swore she never wanted to experience the feeling of being trapped in an hourglass, watching the sand slowly engulf her, with no one to cry out to, no one to help. However, the mission specifically stated that even if she lost the dark duel, she wouldn't have to bear the cost of defeat, so why was she afraid? What? You mean the mission's punishment included sleeping naked? Peacock Dance could only say that such a punishment was too trivial for her, as she already slept that way. As for having to sleep with her dual Pokemon, that wasn't a big deal. Condor Chestnut Ball was so fluffy, she could just sleep with it like a stuffed animal. It seems the first sacrifice to darkness is already eager to die. Woman, I remember you, but I'm not a worthless person like my outer personality. Soon, I'll make you experience true despair. While Outer Malik was unaware of Dark Malik's actions, Dark Malik knew everything about his outer personality. Dark Malik knew everything about the Peacock Dance, including the Condor deck she was using. While the opponent was certainly capable and possessed a strong deck, she was still powerless against his Winged Dragon. As Malik spoke, he perversely licked the Millennium Scepter in his hand. While his Outer Malik's only target for revenge was the nameless Pharaoh, Dark Malik had no clear goal. He sought the destruction of all existence. Chapter 200 Toolman Peacock Dance vs Dark Malik. I've got the first move. I can't wait to see you sink into the abyss of despair. Draw. I summon Kilgaz in attack position and cover a card on the field. End turn, Kilgaz, a 4-star mortal bone monster, 1800 ATK, 1200 F. Looking at the monster Malik summoned, Seiya appeared behind Peacock Dance and said, "It's fair to say this boss isn't as powerful as your average casual monster. Even though it's a mortal bone monster, a 4-star monster with 1800 ATK is still quite powerful at this stage. My turn, draw." Peacock Dance frowned slightly as she glanced at the card she had just drawn and the others in her hand. If possible, she wanted to deal with Malix as soon as possible to avoid any further complications. Unfortunately, unlike her previous starts, this time, perhaps due to Malik's powerful aura as the villainous boss, she had a somewhat stagnant start. The Condor Dick's strength lies in its rush attack, destroying the opponent's backfield while simultaneously sweeping them away with lightning speed. However, to unleash the Condor Dick's rush attack, the key card, Gorgeous Kaleidoscope, is essential. While Peacock Dancer currently has cards capable of defeating Malik's monsters, she hasn't drawn several of Condor's core cards. I summon Condor Queen from my hand in attack position, cover it with a card, and then use Condor Queen to attack Kilgaz. Condor Queen is also a 4-star monster, but with a powerful 1900 attack power, it's more than enough to crush the opponent's monsters. However, just as Peacock Dance declared his attack, Malik suddenly revealed a sinister smile and said, "You're attacking without hesitation. You're willing to take the risk and rush to destroy the monsters on my field. Are you so afraid of God's arrival? I've dealt you the trap card Torture Wheel. While this card is on the field, one designated opponent's monster cannot attack, and its display cannot be changed. Also, during your standby phase, this card inflicts 500 points of damage to your opponent." As the trap card in front of Malik unfolded, the Condor Queen, who is about to attack, was suddenly bound to a torture wheel. Her claws were placed upward, her feet bound below, her alluring figure stretched straight, her impressive curves instantly maximizing her erotic aura. Such a scene, if set in the world of RPG anime, would surely be another masterpiece of eroticism. Seeing the Condor Queen bound, Peacock Dance could only helplessly declare the round over. Just as Peacock Dance declared the round over, Malik impatiently pulled the Millennium Scepter from his belt and, with a hilariously crazed expression, declared, "The action is about to begin. I can't wait to see you tremble before the darkness." As the Millennium Scepter in Malik's hand shone golden, a cloud of black mist quickly enveloped the surroundings, forming a hemisphere that enveloped everyone present. Having witnessed the duel between Yami Yuji and Yami Bakuriya before, everyone present understood that the dark duel, with lives and souls at stake, had begun once again. "Hedy, don't think this dark duel is as easy as your previous fight with Janouchi. My dark power is no match for that useless piece of shit like that persona. Anyway, no matter how much I talk, I'll let you experience firsthand what true pain is." According to the torture wheel's effect, every time it's my turn to prepare, the target bound by the torture wheel will suffer 500 points of damage. As the torture wheel began to move, the restrained Condor girl let out a shrill scream as she endured the pain of being stretched. Her master, Peacock Dance, quickly experienced the true nature of a dark duel. Peacock Dance's LP 4000-3500. As her health points dropped by 500, she suddenly felt a burning pain in her wrist. Soon, to her astonishment, she discovered that the part of her wrist that had caused the pain had vanished. While it didn't affect her movements, she was certainly missing that part of her wrist. Seeing Peacock Dance's grunt of pain, Malik's face lit up with immense pleasure, and he continued with a sinister smile, "I'm well aware that you have a dual spirit constantly following you, protecting you from mental damage. But this dark duel is one I've carefully prepared for you. For every amount of health we lose, a corresponding portion of our torso will be consumed by darkness. The moment our health reaches zero, the loser will naturally be completely consumed by the endless darkness. Now, even your dual spirit won't be able to help you withstand the mental damage. Let's enjoy this truly dark duel." I normal summon Demon Soldier in attack position and cover a card. Demon Soldier, a 4-star mortal bone monster, ATK. 1900, Def. 1500. Due to the effect of Torture Wheel, your Condor Queen can't attack or defend, so the monsters I control can attack you directly. Demon Soldier and Gilgaz, together we will make this woman experience even deeper pain and fear. Activate the continuous trap card Mirror Wall. As long as this card remains in the spell and trap zone, the opponent's attacking monster's attack power is halved. As Peacock Dancer unleashed the trap card, an ice wall appeared before her like a fortress. The ice wall reflected the images of Demon Soldier and Gilgaz, blocking their attacks. Although the frontal attack was blocked, the shockwave still instantly sent Peacock Dance flying. The combined attack power of the Demon Soldier and Gilgaz was 3,700. Even with a trap card mirror wall of screen weakened by half, Peacock Dance would still take 1,850 points of damage. Peacock Dance's HP went from 3,500 to 1,650. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.